Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Was the Whirlwind Alchemist in Fullmetal Alchemist. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Miyuki's paw. I was floating in darkness without a care in the world for quite some time. Ever since I passed out from my battle with Scar, I've been here doing nothing but floating. When am I going to wake up? I asked myself. No one answered, of course, and I sighed in boredom. I wished I had some sort of baiju in me to speed up the healing process, but then I would probably have to answer unwanted questions if that happened. I wonder how my family is doing. I mumbled, closing my eyes. It's been at least a month, maybe a little less, since I left them. Would they try to find me or would they declare me dead? How are my daughters taking the news? I asked myself many more questions, trying to pass the time until I woke up. Soon I felt tired of asking myself questions and just laid there in the darkness, just staring off into space, doing what I was doing before, nothing. Suddenly a ray of light appeared before me, bringing warmth and showing me a way out of here. I floated up to the light and welcomed the warmth as if all I ever felt was the coldness and numbness this place brought. As soon as I put a hand through the light, it sucked me in, bringing me back to the real world, but unfortunately not my real home. Beep, 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 beep. Someone turn off that annoying sound before I do. I mentally shouted as I heard the heart monitor. Seriously, when someone wakes up they don't want to hear that. Turn it off. I groaned as I found strength to say a couple words. If we did that, then how would we know if your heart is still beating? I heard a familiar voice say beside me. Slowly I opened my eyes and I saw the worried face of my colonel, Roy Mustang. See, Colonel. What? I tried to sit up, but a firm hand pushed me back to the bed gently. Don't talk. You just came out of surgery. I'm surprised you're even awake. The doctors said that you would still be unconscious for another 3 days. He said, grabbing a chair so he could sit next to me. This is nothing. I had worse. I coughed out. Water. Here, he said, giving me a glass of water that had a straw in it. Quicker than my brother when it came to ramen, I drank the whole glass of water and afterwards my throat felt relieved. Thanks. I needed that. Where are Ed and Al? Are they okay? I asked when I noticed that the Elrics were nowhere in sight. They're fine, a little worse for wear but fine. I sighed in relief. So what's the damage? When can I get out of this hospital? I asked Roy. He lets out a long sigh, but before he could tell me, my hospital room door opened, revealing Hughes. Hey Roy, how's, oh hey, you're awake. Hughes smiled at me once he saw that I was awake. Hello Hughes, how are you? I should be asking you that. Hughes chuckled and I couldn't help but smile. I feel fine beside the numbness in my right leg. I guess I shouldn't have said that because the room became so tense that it was almost suffocating. Judging by your behavior, I'm guessing that my right leg is gone, right? I said. They nodded sadly and I sighed. I knew that it was a possibility that I could lose my leg, but I had hoped they could have saved it. I guess the damage was worse than I thought. How are Ed and Al taking it? I asked. They blame themselves for what happened to you. They won't listen to any reasoning we give them. I think you should talk to them. Hughes said while adjusting to his glasses. Might as well, since I'm awake. Can you go get them? I asked Hughes. Sure, they're in the waiting room along with the rest of the team. I'll be right back, Hughes replied as he walked out of the room. Now it was only me and Roy. I looked back at Roy and tried to start up a conversation. So, how are you doing? Roy chuckled when he heard my question. You're asking me how I'm doing when you're the one in the hospital bed, numb because of all the painkillers they gave you. Really? I smiled at him. Well, what else am I supposed to ask? What were you smoking when you decided to engage a fight with Scar without being able to use alchemy? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would go so well. I chuckled as I saw Roy's angry expression to my question, but it grew serious. Well, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. When I asked Edward about your fight with Scar, he told me something interesting. I stiffened up. I had totally forgotten about the Rinnegan incident. I had secretly hoped that Edward wouldn't report it to Roy, but it looks like luck wasn't on my side for once. Interesting, what do you mean by that? I asked, playing dumb. Look, I know you're hiding something. Edward told me you were just about to be killed when suddenly Scar just flew away from you as if he was forced to. And then he said your eyes changed. What's going on? I bit my lip as I tried to think of an excuse, but before Roy could interrogate me, the doors opened, revealing Ed. Hey Ed, how are you feeling? He looked down, probably trying to avoid my gaze. I'm fine. Look Miyuki, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I should be the one apologizing. I should have gotten to you guys faster. If I did, then you wouldn't be armless and Al wouldn't be so damaged. By the way, where is Al? He's downstairs. We're afraid that any little movement will break him even more. Hughes answered me. But it's my fault that you got hurt. If I didn't go out then. Look, it's no one's fault, but my own, okay Ed. I decided to go against him without knowing what he was capable of. I wasn't prepared, so the damage done to me is my own fault. Not yours, not Al's, not Mustang's, but my own. Cough, cough, water please, cough, cough. I coughed out when I finished my yelling rant. Not the best idea when you just came out of surgery. Here, Roy gave me another glass of water and I gulped it down. Sigh, thanks. Now where was I? Oh yeah, it's not your fault Ed. Now get over it or I'll beat you up until it stays in that thick skull of yours. I threatened him, waving my cocoon hand at him. Even though I couldn't even bend my fingers to form a fist, I'm pretty sure with the cast I could be able to make him pass out. Ed took a couple of steps back when he noticed my dark aura. You can't do that to me, right? I'm just AK, he frowned when he realized what he was going to say. We all chuckled when he tried to fix his mistakes. I don't care if you're a kid. If I have to beat some sense into you then I will. I smiled at him. He pouted but he accepted the truth. It wasn't his fault that I lost a leg, both of my hands were in cocoons, and I had a large gash on my right arm. So when are you going to fix Al? I want to see him. I asked Ed. Well, I can't fix him with like this. I need both of my arms to be able to fix him. Ed sighed as he pulled the sweater he was wearing tighter around him. So basically you're a brat that can't transmute, right? Hughes said. Hey. Yeah, he's pretty much useless. What? Well, they do have a point, Ed. You're just a kid who talks too much, can't transmute and pretty much useless. I told him. By now he was fuming mad, his face had turned to the color of what I would say a close resemblance to Kyuubi's fur. What about you? You're useless too. While that may be true, if I ever hear you guys call me that, let's say that would be the last thing you ever say. I said with a sweat tone that Ba-chan used when she was really pissed, daring them to call me useless again. Did I say useless? I meant temporarily out of commission. Ed corrected himself while sweating bullets. I glared at the other men, making sure that they also got the warning. Yeah, what he said. Hughes chuckled nervously. I totally agree with Fullmetal on this one. Roy said, stepping back a couple of steps. Thought so. So where are you going to get your arm fixed, Ed? Back in my hometown. My friend's the one who made my automail and I haven't visited her in a while, so that's where I'll be going. Do you think by any chance she could make me an automail leg? I don't think I could really stay like this for the rest of my life. I asked him softly while looking at the stump that was once my leg. If I was back home, my ninja life would have ended. Once you lost a limb there was no way to replace it. Well, you could invest in a puppet limb like Granny Chio had, but it required excellent chakra control and most people couldn't achieve it. Automail. Are you sure? I heard it takes 3 years to complete the rehabilitation. Roy said in surprise. Yeah, not to mention I heard it hurts like a bitch. Hughes added his 2 cents in. But I completed it in a year. Ed said smugly. Really? Wow, that must have hurt like hell. Not to mention you had 2 limbs to reattach. I whistled in amazement. Yeah, but it's nothing compared to, he mumbled uncomfortably. Oh sorry, I didn't want to bring up unpleasant memories. I apologized, remembering what he had to go through. Don't worry, it happened a while ago so it's not as bad. Ed muttered. But the question is who will watch over you when you go to reassemble? Roy asked. Scar is still on the loose and he could run into you guys. Hey, I'm perfectly capable of taking care of Ed and Al. I objected before hissing in pain when I tried to sit up. I was still a little sore from the battle. That's exactly why we can't have you protecting Ed and Al. You can't even protect yourself. Not to mention you only have 1 leg. Roy yelled at me. Fine, you got a point. I mumbled angrily. Then who wants to come with us? Well, I can't, I have tons of work and I have to get back to Central. Hughes said. Roy, what about you? I can't leave HQ. He replied sadly. Well, that makes Riza unable to go with us. I said. She can't leave you unattended, otherwise you would slack off in your paperwork. Well, what about Havoc and the others? Ed asked. There's no way they would protect you from someone as dangerous as Scar. They're too chicken. Roy answered for us. Then who else will take us? I'm not staying here crippled forever. I growled at them. Perhaps I can be of assistant. The voice of Major Armstrong echoed throughout my room. Ni-san. We all looked at the door and saw Major Armstrong carrying a crate that I think had Al's body in it. I mean, all we saw was his head. Al, is that you in the crate? I asked. Yeah. It was the only way to carrying me up here safely. Suddenly, faster than Lee and Guy-sensei combined, Major Armstrong had set Al down and ran towards the unsuspecting Edward, hugging him to death while crying tears like the famous duo. "I've heard about your story, Edward Elric," he cried. Is this normal?" I asked Roy when I saw the sparkles erupting from the Major. I swear he must be related to Guy-sensei or Lee somehow, that was the only way I could explain the way he acted. "I'm afraid so," Roy grumbled while pinching the bridge of his nose. "Your love that made you try to bring back your mother. And your love for your brother, you would throw away your own life just to transmute your little brother's soul." "I am moved," Major Armstrong yelled, trying to once again to hug Edward. "Don't come near me," Ed shouted, putting up his foot to keep away the Major. Then he glared at Roy. "You sure have a big mouth, Colonel, telling him about my story." Edward hissed. "Trust me, I didn't want to, but when you're approached by someone that annoying, I had to tell him about your past." Roy answered back. "Too true," I muttered. "And that's why I'll be your escort until you meet your prosthesis specialist." The Major cried. "What?" Ed and I shouted. "Why him? I'll be fine if it was anyone else but him," Ed cried. "Because everyone else can't or they're too chicken." I pouted when I realized that he would be our only escort. "Then it's decided," Major Armstrong said, grabbing Edward by the head. "Don't decided things for me," Edward screeched. "But children should listen to what adults say," Armstrong argued. "I never listened to an adult and I turned out fine, well, sort of." "Don't treat me as a kid. Al, you have to say something, don't let him come with us." Too bad Al didn't agree with his brother. "This is the first time I've been treated as a child since I became a suit of armor." Al cried with stars coming out. I couldn't blame him, both Ed and Al had to live on their own since their mother died and had to grow up quickly to survive. When you have to look after yourself, you usually lose some of your childhood and sometimes you yearn to be treated as a child, that much I know. "Well, it looks like we have no choice but to go with Major Armstrong to reassemble." I sighed in defeat. I had hoped someone else could go with us, but I guess he would have to do. Not to mention if Scar did come after us, I'm pretty sure he could handle him. After all, he did last for more than a couple of minutes with getting injured. "So when are we leaving?" "Oh no, you're not leaving yet, you just woke up from surgery," Roy yelled at me. "But I feel fine, just a little sore. I'm not going to stay in bed when only my hands and arm are bandaged up." I whined, really wanting to leave the hospital. Even though I worked in a hospital for at least 12 years, that didn't mean I liked being in the hospital. "What about your leg?" Hughes asked. I sweat dropped at that. That too," I mumbled, "but can't you talk to the doctors and see if I can get out of here soon? I want to get my automail as soon as possible." "I'll talk to the doctors and maybe they'll let you out early," Hughes said, leaving my hospital room contacting a doctor. "Thank you," I muttered, feeling sleepy all of a sudden. "Let's leave Miyuki to rest. If the doctors clear her for travel, she'll need her strength," Roy said once he saw my eyes droop. "We'll be back tomorrow, Miyuki." Edward sighed. "Yeah, whatever," I whispered as sleep began to take over my mind. I didn't wake up until the next day around lunchtime. The nurses gave me some hospital food to eat and I must say they haven't made an improvement on the food over on this side. It still sucked as hell. It wasn't until another hour later when Ed, Al, and Major Armstrong came back to check up on me. It was nice to talk to people while you stayed in a hospital. It cheers you up when you know that there's people who care about you and don't want you to suffer the boredom of being in a hospital, in other words, being able to do nothing but stare at a pure white ceiling that could blind you for a couple of days. "Hey Miyuki, how are you doing?" the friendly voice of Hughes asked when he entered my room. "Better than yesterday, that's for sure. Did you talk with the doc?" "Yup, he coming in to check up on you now." And true to his word, a man in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, it was hard to tell, came into the room. He had pitch black spiky hair, and also black eyes just like Roy's, but unlike Roy, his eyes held some playfulness and a little bit of mischief, but it held some maturity too. Strangely, he had a patch over his left eye though, just like the Führer. He looks really familiar. Where have I seen his face? Maybe this is the alternate universe of Naruto. Yeah, maybe that's it. "Hello, I'm Dr. Uchiha," I stared at him with shock. There was an Uchiha here. How was that possible? The Uchihas were massacred years ago. The only survivors were Itachi, Sasuke, and Madara, and I'm pretty they're all dead now. Miyuki, are you okay? You look like you saw a ghost," Edward asked, concerned. I'm fine, just a little shocked at how young he looks, that's all." I chuckled nervously, trying to make up an excuse. They all looked at me weirdly before the doctor continued. "Well, as I said before, I'm Dr. Uchiha, Dr. Knox's assistant even though he an autopsy surgeon. He thought that it would be best if I was familiar on how the live body worked. So I'll be checking your injuries to see if they haven't been infected yet. But will I be able to travel? I really want to get out of here. I asked him politely. If this was Ba-chan I would have just left by now. He only smiled at me before saying, that depends if your wounds aren't too severe. Now can I ask the rest of you to leave the room, it won't be too long. My visitors nodded and left the room leaving me with the supposedly dead Uchiha. So what are going to check first Dr. Uchiha? I asked him. Obito, he replied, call me Obito, I don't really like using my last name unless I have to. It makes me feel so old. He smiled at me. Okay, then Obito, what are you checking first? He picked up my medical file that was hanging off the edge of the bed and whistled. What you did to have so much damage done to your leg that they had to amputate it? Just a fight. I mumbled not wanting to remember how I lost my leg. He continued looking at my file when I saw him staring wide-eyed at something before he looked at me with surprise. Why your sensei's daughter? I looked at him with confusion. Sensei's daughter? I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I don't even know. Minato's your dad isn't he? You have his eyes. And you have your mother's, well not entirely but orange hair can only happen when the parents have red and blonde hair. Not to mention you have both of their last names. He ranted at me. Wait, you knew my parents? Just who are you? I asked. The name's Obito Uchiha, a Chunin in Team Minato. What, didn't your dad tell you about me? He asked suddenly getting sad at the end. I'm sorry but I don't remember much about Minato, he died when Naruto was born and I was only a year old at the time. I told him confused by his statement. I never even knew dad had a team. Kakashi you're a dead man when I get home. Oh really? But didn't Rin or Kakashi tell you about me? Or are they dead too? He asked hesitantly. Well I never heard of a Rin before but Kakashi. As in Hitaki. Yes, he's still alive. I smiled at him. Yes he was my brother's sensei. Obito looked at me with shock. Kakashi. He's a sensei. What had the world come to? I chuckled at his antics, he really reminded me of Naruto. As much as I would love to ask you about how you seem to know me, Kakashi, and my parents, can you please check my injuries? I really want to know if I can travel. I asked him really wanting to get the examination over with. Oh sure. Okay give me your right arm, I'm going to unwrap it and see how it's healing. I nodded and lifted my right arm for him to inspect. He unwrapped the day-old bandage and stared at it in shock. What's wrong? Is it that bad? No it's almost healed. I say give it another 2 weeks or so and the scar will be gone. I think I should take out the stitches though before they get healed into your skin permanently. He chuckled as he brought out some scissors from his pocket. It might hurt a bit. Yeah right, I mumbled as I watched cut away the stitches. But it was strange to be healing at this rate. Sure I healed faster than normal people thanks to my mother's Jinchuriki status, some of the Kyuubi's healing power went into me but never this fast. After a minute of cutting away the stitches, he wrapped my arm again so it wouldn't be infected. You'll have to keep that wrapped up until another week or so. It depends on your healing rate. Now give me your hands. If your arm was any indication, I'll say that your hands are pretty much healed up too. The black-haired doctor chuckled. I semi-glared at him but laughed with him as well. I gave him my gloved hands and he had to get a saw to unwrap my hands. After getting through the cocoon of bandages he looked at my hands and sighed. They're almost healed too. Yup, man I envy you for your healing skills. You hardly have to stay at the hospital. He whined as he started taking out the stitches in my right hand first. I guess that's a good thing. I never really like hospitals. Same here, the plain white room. The super clean smell. And that annoying heart monitor. We both said at the same time, it's just plain annoying. We looked at each other for a moment, having serious written all over our faces before bursting out into laughter. Man I'm liking you more every minute. Obito gave me a foxy smile that could match Naruto's perfectly. Well thank you. Are you almost done? I asked him as I saw him almost done with my left hand now. Almost just a little more, there. Now your hands won't be in cocoons anymore but they have to be wrapped up in bandages until they heal. I would check your leg but since I heard you want to get automail, I'll leave that to the mechanics to fix up. Overall you're in good health but I would like you to stay in until tomorrow. You still need your rest to travel, we don't want you to pass out. He chuckled as he was writing his report about me. Thanks Obito, do you want to come by after visiting hours to talk about my parents and all that? I asked. He stopped writing and looked at me straight in the eye. Sure, I want to know everything. I'll bring some food here too. Then he lowered his voice into a whisper, the hospital food tastes like crap. That I know too well of. I said, giggling with him. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Hey doc, are you done examining Miyuki? Edward's voice echoed behind the door. Yes, you can come in, I'm done right now. Who's her commanding officer? I need to talk to him about her injuries. Obito asked, writing more stuff on the clipboard, never looking up as Ed and the rest returned into the room. Roy Mustang. He should be here soon. Hughes answered for me. I am here, you idiot. The infamous Roy said as he finally entered my room. Great, the bastard's here. I mumbled angrily as Roy went outside to talk to Obito. Hey, your bandages aren't as big as they were before. Especially the ones on your hands. What happened to them? Al asked innocently as he noticed my hands for the first time. Oh well, the doctor said that they weren't needed, so he put less bandages on them. I chuckled nervously. I really didn't like to lie to kids, but I couldn't let them know about my situation. It would bring up too many questions that I couldn't answer at this moment. Really? So the damage wasn't as bad as we thought? Hughes asked, suspicious. I knew he saw the damage firsthand and I knew it didn't look like it wasn't serious. I guess. We stayed silent for a couple of moments before the door opened again, revealing Roy and Obito. So doc, when can Miyuki leave? Edward asked impatiently. From what doc? Uchiha told me, Miyuki can leave tomorrow, but she'll have to rest for the day, and get prescription painkillers for her leg, hands, and arm. Start packing your stuff, Fullmetal, you'll be leaving as soon as Miyuki wakes up. Roy ordered Edward. Finally, hey Al, do you mind staying here while I get my stuff packed? Not at all, Nissan. I'll just talk to Miyuki until you come back. Okay, be back soon. And Edward left my room. Major Armstrong, you should also pack for tomorrow's journey. Roy said. I'll pack right away, sir. Major Armstrong said as he saluted Roy and left my room. What about Miyuki? She still has her stuff to pack. Al said. Don't worry, I still haven't exactly unpacked yet. There are enough clothes in the suitcase to travel for at least a week. I can rewash my clothes if I have to stay longer. I told them. I'll have Lieutenant Hawkeye pick up your suitcase in the morning. Roy said to me. Thanks. Well, since it looks like I'm no longer needed, I think I'll leave. I have to get back to Central anyways. Bye Al, bye Miyuki. I hope you get better. Hughes waved as he exited my room too. Bye Hughes. Both Al and I said simultaneously. Well, I have other patients to tend to, so I'll be leaving as well. Bye Miyuki. Obito said as he too left my room. Now all was left was just Roy, Al, and me. So what's new? I asked, trying to start up a conversation. Not much, we still haven't found any leads where Scar could be hiding. Roy sighed as he sat down in Ed's seat. Well, he could be very well hiding outside the city or inside the sewers. He's not going to leave when there's so many state alchemists that need to be killed, in his mind. I said, but he probably won't try again until things have settled down a bit. So Nissan's safe? Al asked. For now, Roy and I stated. We were back to the awkward silence again, and I swear the sound of a pin drop would make us cover our ears in pain. So who wants to play shogi? Roy looked at me as if I was crazy. Shogi? What in God's name is that? After finding a piece of paper to draw a board on, which is quite difficult when you can't properly use your hands, and also drawing the pieces on another piece of paper, I explained the game to Roy. He thought it was interesting enough and decided to play against me. He, like Al, was pretty smart when it came to battle tactics and gave me a hard time, but in the end I still won. Hell yeah, I'm still undefeated, I shouted. Let's play another game. You just won by luck. Roy growled, clearly not used to losing. Yeah right, you're just a sore loser. Take your loss like a man. I growled back at him. Another game, damn it. I'll play. We looked up and saw that Ed and Major Armstrong had come back, and they were now both looking at the board in interest. Alright, a new player. Move Roy, Ed's going to sit there. I said as I pushed Roy off of the chair and brought it closer to Ed. I explained the game to Ed and he caught on much quicker than Al and Roy had, and he was giving me a hard time. It was like if I was playing Shikamaru. The game went on for at least 3 hours and it looked Ed had a chance to beat me. I never knew a board game could be so intense, muttered Major Armstrong as he watched our game come to an end. I'm betting Ed's going to win, Roy whispered to Al. I don't know. Miyuki's pretty smart. It could go either way. Al answered him. Damn, you're pretty smart. This is the first time I actually had trouble with a game. Ed said as he looked at the board, desperately trying to save his king, but I had him cornered. Same here. You're the only person that's making my brain work overtime. Except Shikamaru. I thought as Ed sighed in frustration. Okay, there's no way I can win, you have me cornered, and even if I could find a way out of it, you had your knights in position to kill my king. You win, Ed muttered angrily as admitted defeat. Yes, I'm still undefeated. I shouted happily. Just then my door opened, revealing a nurse with a tray of food. I'm sorry, but visiting hours are over. You can come back tomorrow and visit her again, the nurse said politely. So soon? But I was having fun. I whined. It's so boring staying here at the hospital. Everyone just laughed. Don't worry, we'll get you out by tomorrow noon. Roy chuckled as he left my room, followed by Edward and Major Armstrong, who carried Al. Bye, the Elric brother said. Bye, I said, even though they were now out of my room. You have some interesting friends, the nurse said as she put the tray of food, if that's what you called it. It looked like they smashed together all the vegetables, added some pieces of meat, and served it to me. On the desk next to me. Eat up, she smiled and left the room. Carefully I picked up my fork and poked the green mush, and I gave out a silent scream when the green mush jiggled back. I'm not going to eat this crap, I said, pushing the dish far away as possible from me. They had given me a piece of bread to go with the food so I didn't starve. After finishing my dinner, I was tempted to go back to sleep when a knock on the door made me alert again. Who is it? I asked. It's Obito, and I brought us some real food, he said as he entered my room with a bag of takeout food. Oh, thank God. I thought I would have to eat this crap, I said, pointing to the green jello dish. What is that? I have no clue, and I don't tend to find out either. So what did you get? I asked. I got us some ramen. I hope you don't mind, everything else was closed, he said, giving me a cup of ramen. Not at all. I'm used to eating ramen all the time. We couldn't afford to eat anything else when we were young, so ramen and instant ramen was our only food source, I said, grabbing a pair of chopsticks and breaking them apart. It smells so good. I moaned as I tasted the ramen. It's like eating at Ichiraku Ramen, I said with stars in my eyes. That was the only place that sold the best ramen ever. Ichiraku Ramen. It's still there? Obito asked as he sat down next to me. Yup. Naruto and I go there all the time. I remember that place. Our team went to eat there all the time after we finished our missions. Good times. Is Ayame working there? Yeah, and even Kyuki still works there. Wow. Isn't he like 60 or something? I giggled. No, I think he's 50 or something like that. Either way, I don't think it would be Ichiraku Ramen without him or Ayame. I slurped my noodles. True, it wouldn't be the same without them. We stayed silent, finishing our meals. After 2 minutes, what can I say? I love ramen. We threw away the bowls and stared at each other. So Miyuki, whatever happened when I died? Obito asked. I sighed, not knowing how to answer him. Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that, but let's see. I'm guessing you died during the Third Great Shinobi War, right? He nodded. Well, we won that war, and Dad became a legend from that war because of the Flying Thunder God technique. Well, that's no surprise. I knew Sensei would become famous. I think his good looks also helped him. I laughed at that statement, but I couldn't help but agree with him. Dad was pretty handsome, so even if he didn't create that technique, he would still be famous with the ladies. Yeah, so anyways, we won the war. Dad became a legend, also with Kakashi. Really? He said, shocked. How? Because he gained the Sharingan and became the copycat ninja. How did he gain the Sharingan anyways? He never told us. Obito sighed and touched his left eye. My eyes widened. You gave him your Sharingan. What? How? Obito sighed but looked me in the eye. You better get comfortable, it's a long story. It all started. I'm sorry, I whispered after he finished his story. It was so sad that his life ended so early. I mean, he was only like 13. It's alright, there's nothing I could do anyways. It's all in the past. So what else happened after I died? I took a deep breath and I tried to remember every important date I could remember from history class. I told him how Minato became the 4th Hokage. I was born some time later. Naruto was born a year after me. How Kyuubi attacked and was sealed into my brother. How our parents died. The 3rd became Hokage again. How the Uchihas were massacred some years later by Itachi because of a rebellion, and so many other things that would take forever to list. It was 4 in the morning when I finished my story, and I looked at Obito in concern when he didn't talk right away. Are you okay, or was that too much information to take in? I asked. Obito only sighed before he answered. This is a lot to take in. I mean, almost everyone I knew died, even my family. Even though they were planning a rebellion against the village, not all of them should have died. He cried. I'm sorry. I said once again. He took a deep breath before answering me. It's okay. It's all in the past. But I still can't help but feel that this is all a dream. I mean I died, but yet I was reborn here or something like that. That's what I've been meaning to ask you. How did arrive here? He gave a sigh and he brushed his hair with his hand. Truth to be told, I have no clue. After I died I remember facing a white figure. It really creeped the hell out of me. He chuckled. Anyways, he started talking and said something about giving me back my life in another world. But in exchange I would have to help someone, I can't remember who though. So after he finished saying that, black hands grabbed me and pulled me through a gate. I woke up in the middle of the forest, and once I found out that I couldn't get back home I started my new life here. So you saw Truth, and he gave you back your life. I semi-yelled as he explained his story. Wait, so you saw this white figure too? I nodded. Just about 4 months ago, I found a book on alchemy and started to learn it. But war came to our country, and I was kidnapped when I was on a rescue mission to save the survivors of Konoha. They forced me to do human transmutation, and that's how I ended up here. I mumbled. So we're both stuck here, huh? Maybe. You see, I heard something about a philosopher's stone and it helps you power up your alchemy. If I can find one of these stones, maybe I can create a way back home for us. I heard about the philosopher's stone too. But how are you going to get information about the philosopher's stone? He asked. I didn't become a state alchemist for nothing. I said, I heard they have more access to information that normally wouldn't be open to the public. Smart, but what are you going to do if you're sent to war? He asked. Let's just hope it won't come to that. I suddenly gave out a huge yawn. Oh, it looks like I overstayed my visit. Get some sleep, you'll have to leave in the morning. See ya, Obito said, going near the window of my room. Don't tell me you're going too. Hey, I'm still a ninja. Old habits die hard. He smiled at me as he jumped out of the window. I shook my head at his behavior. Yup, he's just like Naruto. They never use the door. I closed my eyes at that last thought and went into a dreamless sleep. Hey Miyuki, are you awake? Someone asked while shaking me. I am now. I groaned as I slowly opened my eyes. At first all I saw was a yellow blur, and for a moment I thought it was Naruto, but the blur cleared up and it revealed to be Edward. Damn it, I really thought it was Naruto. I gave out a huge yawn and glared at him. You owe me a large coffee. And it better be dark. I growled at him. No matter who it was, I hated waking up earlier than I have to. Gaara had some scars to prove it, along with my brother, along with other unfortunate people who tried to wake me up. Edward gulped nervously. Why yes, I'll make sure to get you one. Thank you. Now why am I awake now? I thought I wasn't supposed to leave until like lunchtime. Well, Roy thought it would be better if we got you out earlier so we could get to Reasonable faster. I guess that's reasonable, but that doesn't explain why you woke me up. Isn't the nurse supposed to do that? I raised an eyebrow at him. He smiled sheepishly. Well, the nurses did try before, but you scared them away with your sleep talking. I looked at him with confusion. I sleep talk? Oh crap, what did I say to scare the nurses so much? I quote, if you wake me up I'll slice your bodies into 100 pieces, feed your organs to the dogs, and burn the rest of your remaining limbs, and they ran to get me. I sweat dropped at that. It seemed I hadn't lost my sadist side. I tend to get a little sadist when it comes to sleeping. I chuckled. Blame my brother, he used to do strange things to get me awake. I had to find ways to make him stop, so I became a semi-sadist. I smiled at him. Did you actually carry out your threats though? He nervously asked. I lost count after the first month. I stopped completely after half the year gone by. He paled considerably. Why, you really did that to your brother? I nodded my head and sighed. Yes, and even though I did hurt the crap out of him so many times, he never got the message. He became so white that even the hospital walls didn't compare to him. So for future reference, don't wake me up before it's time to wake up unless you want to suffer the same fate as my brother. He nodded furiously. Understood. I'm glad we have an agreement. Now can you get a nurse in here? I would like to change out of these hospital clothing. Unless you want to. Nurse. Edward shouted, leaving my hospital room so fast that he left an after image. I burst out laughing when he ran. It was too much fun teasing him. A minute later a nurse came in with my newly washed clothes and helped me out of the hospital gown. It was embarrassing having another woman undressing me and redressing me. After 20 minutes we finally managed to get myself in my clothes. When the nurse helped me to the bathroom I finally got to see myself in the mirror. I had to suppress a gasp as I saw my reflection. My face was covered in multiple scars, but they were fading away, There was still dirt on my face, my hair was a mess since Scar had cut it unevenly and made me look like a whack job. It looks like I'll have to pull a Sakura and cut my hair shorter. I didn't even bother looking at my legs since I knew how it looked like. Do you want to clean up a little? The nurse asked me. If you can please. I don't want to go out looking like this. I whispered. She smiled at me, grabbed a wet cloth, cleaned my face of any remaining dirt and sweat from my battle with Scar, and brushed my hair as the best as she could. After she was done cleaning my face, she helped me get into a wheelchair, much to my protest, and wheeled me out of my room. Outside my room waiting for me was none other than the Elric brothers, Major Armstrong, and Roy Mustang. Well, I've got your release papers. You're free to go, Mustang said. Are you sure you don't want to stay another day? You look like you. If you finish that sentence, then I'll make sure you'll be the next one admitted in the hospital. I snarled at him. I didn't need to be reminded how horrible I looked. He stepped back a couple of steps. You understood. Well, let's get into the car. You guys have a train to catch, Roy said while walking away. Once we reached the car which Havoc was driving, Major Armstrong had to carry me, just to put me in my seat, which thankfully was the shotgun. Once we were all comfortable in the car, Roy waved us goodbye and Havoc drove us away from the hospital. It took about 20 minutes to get to the train station and another 10 minutes just to get on the train. Once I was safely on the train and Al was comfortable in the luggage section. Poor boy, being treated like luggage. We waited for the train to depart. After 5 minutes there was a knocking on our window compartment. It was none other than Hughes. Hey Lieutenant Colonel Hughes, what are you doing here? Ed asked. Well, since everyone else in headquarters were too busy to see you off, they decided to send me. I tuned out to the rest of the conversation and stared at picture I took out from my watch. I smiled sadly as I remembered that day. It was May's 8th birthday and she wanted a family photo of all of us. Just as we were about to take the picture, Naruto and his boys rushed into the picture and sort of ruined it. We had to take another one, but this time we had both of our families in it. Although it took a lot of persuasion and ramen to make sure the boys wouldn't make any funny faces in the picture. Good times indeed, good times. Well, have a safe trip. If you pop by Central, come and visit me, I heard Hughes said as I snapped out of my daydream. I looked up and saw Armstrong and Edward giving Hughes a salute. Quickly I followed suit. The train whistle hissed loudly, indicating it was time to leave. Goodbye Hughes, stay safe. Oh, and tell Garcia and Elika I said hi, I shouted as the train departed from the train station. Will do, Miyuki. Stay safe, he yelled back. I will, I whispered before sitting back on my bench. I had one all to myself. And stared at the scenery. So Ed, I said, not looking away from the window, who is this mechanic of yours? How good is she at making automail? She's an old childhood friend, and she's not exactly an automail mechanic. She's more like part surgeon, part prosthetic harnesser, and part automail tuner. Edward explained. So in other words, she's your girlfriend, I bluntly said. Ed turned a bright shade of red before yelling excuses. I only smiled at him. Childhood friends usually ended up together no matter how much they deny it. I mean, look at Gara and I, even though we didn't exactly meet when we were 5, we meet pretty young and became fast friends. Now look where we are, a loving couple that will go to the ends of the earth to save each other or our kids. I'm pretty sure Ed and his mechanic will end up like us, minus the shinobi life. Well, I'm going to sleep since someone woke me up. Wake me up when we get there. I yawned as I made myself comfortable on the hard cold bench, drifting off to dreamland, hoping to catch up on my sleep. Don't worry, we'll wake you up, I heard Major Armstrong said before I heard no more. Hey, what are you doing? I heard Ed shout. Are we there already? I thought it would have taken a little longer. Doctor. Marcoh. I heard Major Armstrong shout. I slowly opened one eye to see what the commotion was all about, and I saw Ed, being squashed under Major Armstrong, who was yelling to a person outside the train. Aren't you Dr. Marcoh? It's me, Major Alex Luis Armstrong from Central. Armstrong continued to shout. Wait, I looked out at the window and I could see a figure running as fast as he could away from this place. Who was he? Do you know him? Ed asked once he had room to breathe. Major Armstrong nodded. Yes, he's an alchemist from an alchemist research agency of Central. He took part in a medical research that used alchemy during the Civil War, but it was disposed soon as the war ended. He explained. Well, let's get off, Ed exclaimed, getting out of his seat, and proceeded to get off the train. But we're not in. If he researched the stuff you just said, he might know something about biological transmutation, he shouted, opening the door of the train. Ed, you just can't. Hey, I shouted in surprise as Major Armstrong suddenly carried me bridal style of the train. Sorry, we need to get off of the train, Ed told the conductor as we got onto the platform. Major Armstrong, can you get Al in the luggage? He asked. Of course, let me put Miss Miyuki down first, he said. Luckily there was a bench near us and he gently put me down before heading to the luggage compartment to get Al and the rest of our stuff. Once Al was safely out of the train, they left me on the bench in search of this Dr. Marco. Apparently they forgot about me on the bench. Great, they left me. What a great guardian I have, I thought angrily as I saw them growing smaller. Well, at least they have to come back here. I mean, this is the only transportation out of here. I sighed in boredom as I waited for the trio to return. I was going back to sleep when I felt a strange chakra presence near me. Quickly I scanned the area, and standing suspiciously in the shadow of the train station was a black-haired lady. Her beauty could rival any goddess and could make men putty in her hands with the bust she had. Oh, if Perry Sage was here he would have fainted from blood loss just seeing her. But the real question was, is she the one with the strange chakra signature? I closed my eyes and focused the chakra around me to pinpoint the mysterious chakra. It indeed came from her, but it wasn't normal like I hoped it to be. Instead, her chakra felt as if she had hundreds of chakra signature in one. How was that possible? I opened my eyes again and I saw her staring at me as if she knew me or something. I gave her a small smile and she returned it with a sigh smile, a smile that was fake as a plastic Barbie. After she gave me her smile, she left the train station before I could inspect her further. Luckily I took notice of her strange tattoo just above her chest and made a mental notice to research the tattoo later. After the mysterious woman left, I laid down on the bench and I did what any person would do, well, what Shikamaru would do, and watched the clouds. I could finally see why Shikamaru loved watching clouds, it was so peaceful. Suddenly I heard a couple of giggles coming from my left and I looked up and I saw two kids, one boy and one girl, giggling at me. What? Is there something on my face? I asked. The boy, who I happened to think was the oldest, gathered the courage to speak to me. What are you doing lying on the bench? He asked. Well, my friends forgot about me when they left to find another person, and since I can't walk I'm stuck here until they get back, I muttered angrily. The girl looked at me sadly before reaching in her bag, getting out a small colorful piece of paper and gave it to me. What's this for? I asked, confused why they would give me a small piece of paper. So you won't get bored. You can make an origami with it, she said, smiling at me. My eyes widened in recognition at the paper. I used to do this when I was smaller to make some money, and old man used to say they were great origamis. He even kept one in his office. It was monkey if I remember correctly. I remember now. Do you want to make you one? I used to make hundreds of them when I was little, I said. Can you make me a cat? The girl asked politely. I nodded and started to fold the paper, and it took me 3 minutes to make a cat. Hey, my hands are still in bandages, and the kids stared at me with admiration. That was so cool. Make us another one, please, the girl begged. Okay, one more couldn't hurt. What do you want, kid? I asked the boy. He shrugged. Anything's fine, as long as it's not girly, he said, sticking his tongue out when he mentioned the girly word. I smiled at him. Well, I got the perfect origami for you. Do you mind handing me 3 pieces of paper? I asked the girl. She nodded and handed me 3 colorful papers. 2 of them were black and the other one was red. Perfect colors. I smirked and immediately got to work creating my origami. Make another one. Make another one, the kids shouted. Somehow my skills with my origami had spread throughout the small town and more kids came to get an origami. The first 2 kids, who I learned were Kushina and Kevin, were holding their origamis close to their chest as if the new kids would try to steal them. I had made Kushina a cat, dog, and a crane, while I made Kevin a dragon. Okay, what do you want me to make? A bear, one of the kids asked. I nodded, and in less than 3 minutes I produced a bear and gave it to the girl. She smiled at me and went to her mother to show her the bear I made. You're so cool. They all gushed out at me. I blushed, a deep red color not used to having praise coming from kids. Thanks. I smiled at them. Suddenly I felt Edward's chakra signature coming closer to the train station. Finally they came back. Now what to do to make sure they won't leave me again? Kushina, can you give me 5 pieces of paper? I want to demonstrate something, I said. She nodded quickly and took out her last pieces of paper. Okay kids, this is one of my personal favorites. It's called a shuriken, I said as I started to make star-shaped origamis. You can use these to throw at people who left you on a bench like this, I said while I put the shurikens in my hands as best as I could and took aim at Edward, who was just entering the train station. Gah! He shouted as all 5 of my shurikens hit him right in the face. The kids all awed at me and started to clap. Again. All right, WHO through that. Edward shouted as looked for the culprit. All the kids pointed at me since they were scared at Ed. I mean, who wouldn't? He had somehow developed the same jutsu Iruka-sensei had just to calm us down. The demonic big head jutsu. Once he saw it was me he paled considerably. Miyuki. I didn't see you there. He stuttered, growing paler as I released killer intent at him. Oh really? I thought you would have noticed when you frickin' forgot me on the bench. I screamed, scaring the kids away. Even Major Armstrong was wisely stepping away from Edward. Why yeah, sorry about that. Sorry. You're sorry. That's all you have to say. You're fucking lucky that I can't walk or otherwise you would be a dead man right now. I was panting by the time I finished my rant. Yelling and releasing lots of killer intent can take a lot out of you. Sorry. Edward squeaked, hiding behind Major Armstrong who was sweating bullets. Al wasn't doing much better either. I could hear him shaking his armor. So did you at least get any information on the guy you chased after? I growled. Yes, he even had a philosopher's stone, but he wouldn't give it to me. He said gloomily while taking a seat next to me. You know you could have taken it by force. Major Armstrong said while putting Al next to Edward. Yeah, I really wanted to. In fact, I think I was only seconds away from doing that, but what? I asked. I remembered the people we meet while we looked for Dr. Marco. If we had taken it by force, then we would have robbed the town a great doctor. It just wouldn't feel right. He said, we'll find another way to get the philosopher's stone, right Al? Yep, he replied happily. I smiled at their responses. Even though they were young, they knew a hell of a lot more than most people would give them credit for. What about you, Major Armstrong? Are you going to report to Central about Dr. Marco? Edward asked. I only met a man named Dr. Malio, no Dr. Marco. He said, smiling to himself. We all smiled at his response. But it was short-lived as Edward groaned. Aw man, now we're going to have to start from scratch again. Don't worry, now that you know a philosopher's stone does exist, then the search should be so hard now, right? I said. I guess you're right, he muttered while staring into the sky. After about 10 minutes, the next train to Istanbul pulled in. Just as we were about to board the train, we all heard an out-of-breath, wait. We turned around and saw none other than Dr. Marco, Dr. Malio or whatever he was called. Dr. Marco, what are you doing here? Edward asked, surprised. Dr. Marco just gave him an envelope and gasped out. This is where the research files are hidden. Look at this, if you know you're not going to regret knowing the truth. He didn't let go of the envelope until he said in a firm voice, and if it's you, you'll uncover the truth behind the truth. He riddled out before letting go of the parchment. I've said too much, I have to go now. Goodbye, Edward. I hope you'll be able to restore your bodies one day, he said, walking off the train station. Well, what was that all about? I asked once we were safely on the train. I think Dr. Marco just gave me the location of the files about the Philosopher's Stone. Ed said. Not that, the riddle he gave you. You'll uncover the truth behind the truth. What does he mean by that? I asked. I don't know. Maybe once we search his files we'll know what he meant. Which is in, he unfolded the paper and whispered, the National Central Library First Branch. Also he hit a tree in a forest. Clever, the amount of books the library has is astounding. Major Armstrong said. So it looks like you won't be starting from scratch. I smirked. Yeah, we're finally closer to our goal now. Ed smiled. It looks like the boys' dreams, and hopefully mine, will be completed sooner than we thought. How much longer until we get there? I moaned while Ed pushed me in the wheelchair and I semi-wheeled myself. I really hoped they had forgotten it in the other train. Shut up, you're not the one pushing a person in a wheelchair up a hill. He snapped. Well, I did suggest that I hop the way there, but no, you guys wanted me to be in a wheelchair. I growled back at him. Major Armstrong was a couple of paces ahead of us and sighing at our antics. Children, you. WHO, are you calling a kid? We both shouted at him. Ni-san, Al said dejectedly. Hey, is that the house over there? I asked. On we were at the top of the hill. There was a simple house. Standing in front of the house was an old lady that was smaller than a child. Talking to a black dog who also had an automail limp. Edward smiled. Yup, that's the place, he said, pushing me down the hill. The dog came running towards us and barked happily at Edward. Well, aren't you looking lively? The miniature grandma said, smirking at us. Hey Granny Pinico, we need your help again. Edward replied while smirking at his grandma too. Oh, this is Major Armstrong, he said, pointing at Alex, who had put Al down and shook hands with Miss Pinico. Pinico Rockbell, she said. And who is this? She asked. Oh, that's Major Sabuka, a new customer. Really? You do know that automail is pretty painful, right? She said while shaking my hands. Well, if a dog and a teenager can stand the pain, then I'm pretty sure I can. I smiled at her. I like her already. Oh, and it's been a while since I saw you, and it seems you gotten smaller, Ed. And Ed will explode in 3, 2. Who the hell are you calling small mini hag? And let the screaming fest begin. Oh yeah, ultra squirt. Midget hag. Micro squirt. Flea-sized hag. I turned to Al and asked. Is it always like this? Unfortunately so, but around this time Hey Ed. I sensed an object flying towards Ed, and since he was still pushing me, I was in front of him and ducked before it could hit me, and it hit Ed square on the head. Whoever threw that had pretty good aim, not to mention strength. Not many people can throw wrenches that far. Didn't I tell you to call at least once before you show up for a maintenance check? A girl shouted on the balcony above us. Damn it, Winry. Are you trying to kill me? Ed shouted once he recovered from her hit. But when he said Winry, I immediately looked up and I suppressed a gasp. The girl who threw the wrench at Ed looked like my own Winry, but only older, and had blue eyes and blonde hair. I really hated truth right now. The girl, I mean Winry, only laughed as she said, "Welcome home, Ed." Yeah, he grumbled, but I could see a small smile forming on his face. Well, come on in. It's rude to keep guests outside. Not to mention we have to get you ready for your automail. Pinako said while ushering us into the house. Once we were in the Rockbell's house, Winry gave us all hot coffee and then screamed at the sight of Ed with one arm. What did you do to my automail? She screamed. I just busted it up. He calmly said. Busted up my ass. How can you bust up one of my first-class automail I created for you? It got smashed into tiny little pieces. He smirked. I could see a ghost Winry floating above her head when he said that. That earned another wrench to the head from Winry. What about you, Al? You got pretty busted up too. What are you guys doing anyways? She asked once she finally got over the fact Ed had damaged her automail. Ed explained why he was in the condition he was in now, and also explained why he wanted to get his automail back as soon as possible, and his grandma and friend nodded in understanding. So you want to get there as soon as possible, right? To find the files on the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, so can you fix my arm quick? Ed asked. Pinkano went to check on his leg. Well, it's not your arm that needs fixing. We have to adjust your leg too. Well, it seems you've gotten bigger since we last saw you, but it doesn't make a difference. Winry taunted Ed. Shut up, he shouted, clearly embarrassed about his height. Pinkano, who wasn't bothered by his outburst, kept talking. Well, it won't take very long to fix the leg since we still the base, but we'll have to start from scratch with the arm. So it'll take about a week? He asked. Pinkano only smirked. Don't underestimate my skills, it'll take 3 days tops. Oh, but we still have Miss Sabuka to work on. Maybe you'll have to stay a week, she said after taking a puff of her pipe. You can work on Edward's leg and arm first. I can wait for 3 days. I said. Nonsense, it's better if we start your automail surgery as soon as possible. The first days are the most painful. We'll get you into surgery tomorrow early in the morning, how about that? She asked, well, more like ordered. Sure. Good. Winry, go show her the patient's room and make sure she's comfortable. Pinkano ordered. Yes, Granny, here, let me help you. Winry said while coming to my aid. No need, Miss Rockbell, I can carry her. Where is the room? Major Armstrong asked, lifting me off the couch. Second door on your left when you leave the room, she answered. I can't wait until I get my leg. I hate having to rely on other people for help. I muttered. Is it such a wrong thing having people helping you? Mr. Armstrong asked, setting me down on the bed. Well, not entirely. I mean, yeah, I'll accept people's help when I really need it, but things like walking, changing, and other simple stuff I'm used to doing on my own. I did the groceries and bills when I was younger. I explained to him. Even now I have some problems with that. I sighed, suddenly feeling tired from this whole trip. Sleep, Miss Miyuki, you'll need your energy for tomorrow, he whispered, leaving my room. Yeah, just wake me up for dinner, I muttered, closing my eyes and welcoming the darkness that it brought. Miss Sabuka, it's time for dinner. Winry's voice came from my room, and for a moment, I actually thought it was my own daughter before I mentally slapped myself. This Winry is not the same Winry back home. Get it through your head. But they're so similar, my head thought back. Dinner, Jan, what time is it? I asked, rubbing the sleep off my eyes. I say about 6:30. Want me to help you to the kitchen? She asked. I think I can manage, I grumbled, trying to get off the bed but failed miserably. In second thought I think I need some help. I muttered. Sure thing Miss Sab. Miyuki. I told her but she looked at me confused. Call me Miyuki, Miss Sabuka makes me sound old. I smiled at her. Okay then Miyuki, hold on to my arm and hopefully we can make it to the kitchen with too many injuries. She chuckled and I joined her. After successfully getting out of bed, we slowly made our way to the kitchen but stopped when we heard Pinkano talking to Major Armstrong. 4 years ago he gave up his arm to transmute his brother's soul, when he decided to become a dog of the military, when he withstood automail surgery that would make most adults scream in pain. I looked at Winry to see how she was coping with the memories and I could see her eyes starting to water. Who would have thought that a small boy like Ed had such strength, and because of that I worry about him. You treat them as if they are your grandchildren. We heard Major Armstrong say. Well I did know them when they were young so I consider them as my own grandchildren. I knew their father because he used to be my drinking buddy. But one day he just up and left his family and I haven't seen him since. I don't even know if he's alive or not. And speaking about fathers, where are Winry's parents? I could now feel Winry clutching onto my arm more tightly. They died during the Ishvar Civil War. Her parents were surgeons, my son and his wife. They were sent to the front lines because they heard that there weren't many doctors. They never came back. I heard Pinkano sigh. It was a horrible war. Major Armstrong said with remorse in his voice. While that may be true, people lost their limbs and needed as prosthetic outfitters. It's ironic really. While we lost our families during the war, we were still able to eat and have a roof over our head because of it. It was silent for a couple of minutes before we heard Pinkano gasp out. Whoops, it's time to start making dinner. I'll make extra to feed you and Miss Sabuka. There's no need really. Nonsense, dinner always tastes better when there's more people. I decided that we had enough of sneaking around and decided to show ourselves. That's true, food always seems to taste better when there's more people to enjoy it. They turned around and saw both of us entering the kitchen. Ah Miss Sa. Please call me Miyuki, I'm not that old really. Pinkano only smirked. And just how old are you Miyuki? 29, I said as Major Armstrong gave me a chair to sit in. So not even 30 yet. You shouldn't be in the military, you should be looking for a man to settle down with. But I already have, I said before realizing my mistake and slapped myself. You're already married? Major Armstrong asked shocked. Yeah, I mumbled. Then what are you doing so far away from your husband? Winry asked this time. Well it's a long story and. Hey Granny Pinkano I'm back. Edward called coming into the kitchen. Never have I been so relieved to see Edward. Oh hello Ed. Major Armstrong can you go and get Al, it's time for dinner and even though he doesn't eat it's better not to leave him alone. Pinkano said. Sure thing ma'am, he said and went to get Al. What are you making anyways Granny? Stew, she said while going to the kitchen. I can live with that. Hey Miyuki how are you doing? Ed said as he took a seat next to me. Fine, but you still owe that large coffee. I smiled at him as he started to pale. But good thing for you I accept rain checks. And he let out a breath of relief. We continued to talk as Al and Major Armstrong came back and we even made some jokes to pass the time until dinner was ready. Once dinner was on the table I should have known there was bound to be some argument though. Mini hag. Micro squirt. Shut up. I sighed at their behavior and I couldn't help but feel at home. Dinner at our home was never quiet when Naruto came over and with so many similarities, it was hard to tell the difference between them. Ed just shut up. I smiled at scene before me. Maybe staying here won't be so gloomy with the brothers to make everything more exciting. Rise and shine Miyuki. It's time for your automail surgery. Pinkano said shaking me awake. So soon. It's barely, what time is it? Pinkano only chuckled. It's 7 and it's better if we start the surgery earlier so you can have time to rest. Fine, I'm getting up. Where is that horrid hospital gown I have to wear? I sighed sitting up. Well lucky for you it's only your leg that needs automail so you'll just have to wear the shorts and you can wear a tank top on top. Winry explained and I sighed in relief, I really hated wearing hospital gowns. Pinkano and Winry helped me get out of my pants and changed into the shorts. Then with Major Armstrong's help, they carried me to the surgery room as I would like to call it. In the middle of the room was an operation patient's bed. Next to the bed was a heart monitor ready for action, trays of surgery utensils of all kinds including bandages, IV bags, bags of blood, and of course parts of my new automail leg. And what type of blood are you? Pinkano asked putting on her surgery gloves. Oh so you can use any blood with me. I said making myself more comfortable on the bed. That's good, we don't have much of a variety of blood types. Major Armstrong, can you leave the room, we're going to start. Of course ma'am, he said, exiting the room. Winry, can you remove the bandages on her leg? We need to see how damaged it is. If it's a clean cut we won't have to use the saw. She said, and I shivered slightly. I never did like the saw, too many bad memories. Winry began unwrapping the bandages and gasped aloud. Pinkano came to check what was wrong and let a gasp herself. Is it that bad? I asked worryingly. How long ago did you receive the injury? Pinkano asked while setting up the IV and blood bags. Like 5 days ago. I don't remember that well. I said. Amazing, I heard her mutter. Well, she said in a much louder voice, it looks like we'll have to use the saw anyways. Your wound is almost healed up, so we'll have to reopen the wound so we can put the automail in. Winry, give her some sedation, we need her awake for the surgery so we can see if we placed the automail right. Winry nodded and got out a syringe and injected the sedation into my right leg. I felt the effect immediately and I didn't even feel my right leg, well I couldn't feel most of my lower right body. That was some powerful sedation. Alright, we're going to begin the cutting, are you okay Miyuki? Asked Pinkano while turning on the saw. Just get this over with. I mumbled, trying to shun out the sawing noise. I briefly saw Pinkano nodding to Winry, she lowered the saw, and I could hear fleshing being cut open once again. Edward's paw. Holy mother, we heard Miyuki scream out in the surgery room. It was around 2 in the afternoon and Miyuki has been semi-screaming for at least 2 hours or so. Ni-san, do you think Miyuki's alright? My little brother asked. We were sitting outside the house and watching the clouds go by. Not my ideal way to wait for Winry to finish my automail, but what can an armless teenager do? Well, I think she's alright. She tough just like Master. I replied. Yes, she does kind of remind me of her. I have a feeling they would get along. That made us go pale, well shake in fear. I hope they never meet. We both shouted. Hope who won't meet? We hear Winry ask. We both turned around and we saw Winry coming out of the house covered in sweat, probably from the surgery. Miyuki and Master. They're both very similar. Al answered Winry. She raised an eyebrow but didn't question it further. Since you're out here, how Miyuki doing? Is she alright? I asked. Winry smiled. I seriously think you guys are related. She took the surgery pretty well and hardly screamed in pain. Most of the time she grunted in pain, but other than that not a noise came from her lips. She answered. Can we see her? Al asked. That's if she's not asleep. Granny just installed part of the automail port on her leg and she's recovering right now. Remember Ni-san when you had your automail surgery? All you did was sleep. Al said. I chuckled at the memory. Yeah, I was pretty lazy back then. You still are. They both muttered. Hey. What, it's true, you write your reports messy, you sleep whenever you can, and… Okay, I get it. I shouted. Well, if you're done yelling, come inside for some lunch. Granny Pinkano called out from the window. She had already changed from her surgery clothing into her usual outfit. Coming. We all shouted and made our way to the house. Hey Granny Pinkano can. She's on the second door to the right. Don't stay too long, lunch will be ready in about 20 minutes. Granny Pinkano answered my unspoken question. I thanked her and the three of us since Major Armstrong had to carry out went to visit Miyuki. When we entered her room, we were greeted by a very tired and sweaty Miyuki. She laid on the bed gasping for air, her eyes were threatening to close very soon, and her hair was sticking to her face. Hey Miyuki, how are you doing? I asked her. She turned her face towards and muttered. Naruto. What are you doing here? She asked out of breath. We all looked at her confused and I saw that her eyes were unfocused. She must be hallucinating a little bit. I'm not Naruto, who would name a kid that. It's me, Edward. She looked at me confused before recognition crossed her face. Sorry about that. You just are reminded of someone. She gasped out. That's okay. So how are you feeling? She only groaned. Like crap. I'm amazed you were able to do this when you were 12. You're now my idol. She muttered. We all laughed at that. Well, Ni-san is strong, not a lot of people can do what he can. My little brother said. I believe we should leave Miss Miyuki alone so she can rest. Major Armstrong said. So soon. But I'm not even. She didn't even finish her sentence as she dozed off. And that's our K to leave. Come on Al, I said while covering Miyuki up with a blanket. We can visit her tomorrow. Yeah, she needs her rest. Quietly we left her room, but I couldn't help but glance back at her. Who is Naruto? Why did she act so strangely around Winry? Who is she married to? Yes, I did eavesdropped on her conversation, and most importantly, what is she hiding? The battle with Scar, her eyes changing color, and her super healing abilities. She had a mysterious past and I wanted to know what she was hiding. Hey Ed, are you coming or what? Winry asked. I snapped out of my thinking phase and smiled at her, so she wouldn't have to worry. Nothing, just thinking, that's all. Come on, I'm starving, I replied, walking past her to the kitchen. Is that all you ever think about? Food, she yelled, throwing another wrench at me. Ni-san. So how's the arm? I still have another 2 all-nighters to work on the leg. Leave me alone if you want me to finish it faster. Winry hissed at me, not looking up from her work. But, she slammed down her screwdriver down and threw me out of her room, literally. Get out, and slammed the door in my face. Sheesh, I just wanted to know if you were almost done. I muttered, walking back to the kitchen. It's been 3 days since we arrived and Winry was barely working on my arm. She had to help Granny Pinkano with installing the final parts of the automail port onto Miyuki's leg yesterday. Usually they would have to wait another day to install it, but for some reason her leg was healed enough to finish the base a day earlier. Yet another reason to question her motives. Ni-san, calm down, bugging Winry won't make her work on the arm any faster. My brother tried to calm me down. I know, but when I know that there's information on the Philosopher's Stone in the Central Library, it makes me so impatient. I groaned in frustration. Yeah, I know what you mean. Hey, do you want to go outside and watch the clouds? Al asked. Sure, it's not like we have anything better to do. I sighed, getting Major Armstrong to help Al get outside. At first, we did nothing but look at the clouds, but then we started making images out of the clouds. That looks like a cat. Al pointed out to a cloud that did look like a cat. It even had the stripes on it. Wow, that's a bit creepy. Hey, that looks like a dog. Oh, I see it. Hey, next to it looks like a, and we continued the game for another hour or so before we became bored again. Do you want to visit Miyuki? I'm getting bored at looking at clouds. I said. Yeah, maybe she'll make some origamis for us like she did to those kids at the train station. Al's voice was filled with hope at that. Ever since he saw her making origami, he wanted one. I chuckled at his childish behavior, but I agreed with him. I wonder how Miss Miyuki is feeling today. Major Armstrong said, carry Al back inside the house into Miyuki's room. Probably like crap, like yesterday. I said, coming closer to Miyuki's room. Before I opened the door, I could hear ragged breathing and multiple curses. What's going on? Slowly I opened the door and what I saw made me gasp aloud. There was Miyuki, her hands over her automail leg, and there was a weird glowing coming from her hands. Her face was filled with pain and she flinched a couple of times, and muttered a couple of words in a different language that I never heard of. When Al and Major Armstrong heard me gasp, they came to look to see what was wrong and gasped out as well. Apparently, we made too much noise that she noticed us and gasped herself, automatically dispersing the green glow. What the hell was that? Miyuki's paw, a few minutes before Ed came in. God damn it, how much longer am I going to be confined in this stupid bed? I groaned as I stared at the ceiling. It's been about an hour since I woke up and walking around the room wasn't an option. I winced as I felt another sharp pain surge through my right leg. That's the 12th time I felt pain in my leg. These painkillers aren't doing their job. I groaned even louder as the pain intensified. Crap, if this continues I'm pretty sure I'll pass out. I guess I should take matters into my own hands. I muttered as I slowly sat up. Even more slowly, seeing that sitting up took most of my strength, I took off the covers off my legs and stared at my right leg. Now instead of a stub for a leg, there was a shiny metal port instead. I was amazed at how in this world people could attach metal parts to their own limbs and yet still have it function as a regular limb would. I touched the skin around the port that was healing at an abnormal rate and hissed as I felt my nerves burn once again. Okay, I had enough of this pain. Fuck healing naturally. I'm going to speed up the process. Okay, on 3, 1.2.3. And I gritted my teeth as I healed my nerves so they would connect with the artificial nerves in the port. Fuck, shit, holy mother, how did Ed take the pain? I hissed, taking in deep and ragged breaths. Healing takes a lot of concentration and it doesn't help when you're in pain. I heard footsteps coming to my room but I paid no mind to it. I mean, Edward always passed through this room to go to Winry's to bug her about his automail, so it didn't mean he would come and check up on me. What a stupid mistake that was. Seconds after hearing the footsteps I heard a set of loud gasps that I automatically stopped what I was doing and stared at the intruders. I looked up from my leg and let out an equally out gasp as well when I saw my spectators. What the hell was that? Edward yelled. I could only stare wide-eyed at them, and when I did try to speak nothing came out. Before I could comprehend what was even happening, Edward came up to me and grabbed my tank top with his left arm and growled out. "What the hell were you doing? What's with all the, Edward? What are you doing?" Pinkano shouted as she saw the position we were in. Edward paid no attention to her and grabbed my shirt even tighter. "I'll ask once again, what the hell were you doing?" I only stared back at him, debating if I should tell him about my secret. "Ni-san, let go of Miyuki," Al pleaded with his brother. "What's going on, Edward?" Winry cried as she entered the room. "Great, now the whole gang was here, let go of Miyuki." "Not until she tells us what the hell just happened seconds ago," he snarled. "Edward Elric, let go of Miyuki." "No, he's right to act like this, Miss Pinkano. I mean, you guys never saw medical ninjutsu firsthand," I calmly said, finally decided that if Edward trusted his secret with me, then I should do the same. "What?" they all asked, confused. "Edward, let go of me and I'll demonstrate." He was reluctant but complied. "Now who wants to be the test subject?" I asked. "Test subject," but before Ed could finish his sentence I had grabbed a scalpel near me, very convenient I might say, and threw it at Edward so that it only grazed his cheek. "Ni-san. What the hell are you trying to?" I grabbed Ed before he could step back and my hands glowed green. "I'm not going to kill you, sheesh, I'm not that cold," I muttered as I healed Edward's cheek. They immediately went silent as they saw the cut on Edward's cheek disappear. Once I was done, I let go of Ed and he immediately checked his cheek. "What the hell did you do to me?" "I healed the cut on your cheek, you dumbass, what else would I have done? I did say that I would demonstrate what I was doing moments ago," I told him. Is that some sort of alchemy?" Major Armstrong asked once he got over the shock. I sighed and shook my head. "No, it's, crap, how do I explain this?" I muttered. "How about telling us the whole story?" Pinkano said sternly while semi-glaring at me. "But you might not believe me," I argued, hoping that they would just let go of the subject. "We'll be the judge of that," Ed said, grabbing a seat and sat down. I sighed in defeat. I knew Ed well enough now, that if he set his mind on something, he won't stop until he gets his answers. "Fine, everyone get comfortable, it's a long story," I whispered. Once everyone found a seat, I took a deep breath and started to explain. "Okay, as you guys know by now, I'm not exactly normal." I heard Edward snort and I threw a roll of bandages at him. "Hey. No interruptions. Now where was I? Okay, so I'm not normal. That's because I come from a place called the Elemental Countries, which is probably far away from here or doesn't even exist. The Elemental Countries are pretty much almost the same as a normal city here, except we have ninjas instead of alchemists and regular officers." "Ninjas. No interruptions," I growled out, getting annoyed at Ed. "Yes, even though you guys don't believe that there's such things as ninjas where I come from, and there's a whole lot of them. I'm even a ninja if you want to believe it or not." Winry hesitantly raised her hand and I sighed. I should have known that people were still going to interrupt me. "Yes, Winry, you have a question. Let's say we believe that you're a ninja. What makes a person a ninja?" "A ninja could be anyone really, as long as you know how to control your chakra." "What's chakra?" Al asked. Several tick marks formed and it took all of my willpower not to yell at Al. "Chakra is the spiritual and physical energy within a person, and if someone interrupts me one more time, I swear I won't hesitate to knock you out cold," I snarled. That made them shut up quickly. "Okay, so as ninjas we use chakra to enhance our abilities, like in smell, sight, strength. Like in the exams," Al shouted and I kicked his helmet off of his head. That made shut up. "Yes, just like in the alchemist exams, if you control your chakra properly you can enhance your strength so that smashing a boulder would be similar to punching a punching bag. But you can do so much more with chakra, like using it to use jutsus, medical ninjutsus, genjutsus, and so many more. Jutsu are attacks that we use to fight an enemy, and it's sort of similar to alchemy. Think of it as equivalent exchange. You give up a portion of your chakra so you could perform a jutsu, and depending how much you gave you could kill a whole army, but afterwards it would leave you tired and vulnerable. Medical ninjutsu is using your own chakra to heal wounds, like what I did to Ed earlier, and genjutsus are just illusions that you put people under, and unless they know how to dispel them they'll be under them until they die." "Can you show us an example of a jutsu?" Major Armstrong asked after I finished my explanation. "Sure, this one is my brother's favorite as well as mine. Shadow Clone Jutsu," I yelled as a cloud of white smoke enveloped me. Once the smoke disappeared, I heard multiple gasps when they saw my clone. "Holy mother, you were telling the truth," Edward gasped out as he saw an exact replica of me, standing next to me. This is one example of a jutsu, and as the name implies, it makes a clone of yourself, and unlike the rest of the other clone jutsus, their jaws dropped when I said this. When you dispel this clone, all the memories it had will come back to you. I smiled as we both explained the workings of the shadow clone jutsu. Hey, why do you still have a leg? I said, looking at my clone and finally noticing that she was standing on her own 2 legs. Huh, I don't know. She mumbled, now noticing her leg too. Lucky asshole, just disperse now, I think I can explain the rest of my story on my own. I grumbled. Really, or is it because I still have? I didn't let her finish as I punched her in the gut, making her disappeared in a puff of smoke. God, I hate it when they don't shut up. I muttered. I looked up and saw them blinking several times, trying to absorb what just happened. Is that normal? Al asked. Unfortunately, yes. Now, do you have any other questions? I asked. So when you were fighting Scar and your eyes changed color, was that also a jutsu too? Edward asked, finally getting over his shock. Well, that's a dojutsu keke genkai, or an eye bloodline that only a certain family has. There's 3 major dojutsu keke genkais in our world. There's the Sharingan, which allows the user to copy any jutsu, and can pretty much predict the next movements of their opponents. A person who has the Sharingan usually has pitch black eyes when it's not activated, and when they do activate it, it's red with 3 tomo around the pupil. Next would be the Byakugan. Its ability is to see through any solid objects, genjutsus, and chakra points within a person. It's also known to have a 360 vision, but they do have a blind spot. A person who has the Byakugan looks blind, but they can see perfectly well, and when they have the Byakugan activated, it's scary as hell. They have veins popping out near their eyes. I shuddered as I remembered seeing an angry Hinata when she had her Byakugan activated. But none of them match your eyes. Ed said, confused. That's because I still haven't finished explaining the last dojutsu. Now shut up and listen. The last dojutsu is called the Rinnegan, one of the most powerful and rarest dojutsu to exist. This dojutsu lets the user to use any element and control it with expertise, not to mention they can manipulate the chakra within a person, either to push them away or pull them. The Rinnegan pretty much looks like the eye when you see truth. I explained. Wait, you saw truth? Ed screamed, and I winced at his loud voice. So you performed human transmutation? Unfortunately, yes. I mumbled as Ed, Al, Major Armstrong started talking at the same time. You perform human transmutation. Is that why you can perform alchemy without transmutation circles? How come you didn't lose any limbs? Let me. Just who are you? Let me tell us the truth. God damn it. Shut up and let me explain. I screamed at him, throwing one of Winry's wrenches at him. Ni-san. Now does anyone else want to interrupt? I growled out. When no one else spoke, I continued my story. Now I think you guys would like to know how I knew truth, or how I performed human transmutation, right? They all nodded. It all started about 5 months ago on my daughter's birthday. She was turning 6. I whispered, remembering the day my life turned around. So you have a family? Ed said. I only glared at him. Of course I have a family. Do you think I was lying when I told you about my kids? And no, I just wanted to make sure I had my facts right. Ed whimpered under my glare. Anyways, as I was saying, it was on my daughter's 6th birthday that I found out about alchemy. You see, in Suna, where I lived with my husband, our old library was going to be torn down, and they were selling some of the books there. I decided to go and see if there was anything worth reading. And that's where I found the book on alchemy and decided to learn about it. So you learned about human transmutation and tried to bring someone back to life. But why? I shook my head. No, Ed, it's not like I wanted to bring back someone, although there were times I really wanted to. It was more like I was forced to. You see, about a month ago, foreigners had entered our country and was threatening the peace we had worked so hard to build. We tried our best to stop them, but they used some sort of alchemy that took our ability to use chakra and that made us very vulnerable to their attacks. I only learned that they used alchemy when one of my friends, a survivor of one of their attacks, told me about it. You see, they had attacked my brother's village and not many of my friends survived. So our village went to go and help the survivors, and naturally I went despite my husband's protest. That was the last time I saw my family because, well, they kidnapped me. They kidnapped you. Why? Because they knew that I could perform alchemy much better than their own alchemist, I guess. So they forced me to do human transmutation to bring back one of their leaders, otherwise they would kill my brother. So you performed human transmutation to save your brother? Major Armstrong asked. I nodded. So you saw truth, huh? Ed said. Yes, I whispered. I wonder why you didn't lose a limb. I thought that's what you would have to pay to see the truth. Ed wondered aloud. I think it was I was used to feeling physical pain so that losing a limb wouldn't be a suitable punishment. Besides, I wouldn't care if I lost a limb, as long as I had my family it didn't matter if I lost my sight or anything. Maybe that's why truth sent me here, losing my family is much worse than losing anything. I muttered. Do you have a picture of your family? Pinkano asked, speaking up for once. Yes, it's in my pocket watch, I said, grabbing the Silver State Alchemist watch. I opened it and took out my family photo. On the right is my brother's family. That's Naruto, his wife Hinata, and their 2 sons, Minato and Alphonse. Then on the left is my family with my husband Gaara and my 2 kids, Mei and Winry. I chuckled at Al's and Winry's face. Wow, talk about coincidences, Ed said. They look just like them, only with different hair and eye color. Yeah, let me tell you, it was a shock for me when I saw and heard your names, I whispered sadly. So now you're stuck here? Winry asked. For now, but I looked up and gave them a determined look. I'll find a way back home. That's why I joined the military, so I could have more freedom to search for the Philosopher's Stone. I know that with the Philosopher's Stone it can amplify my alchemy powers and maybe I can find a way back home. So please Edward, this time I looked at Edward pleadingly, let me help you search for the Philosopher's Stone. Please. I want to get back home to my family. I want to see my daughters again, I begged Edward. Edward looked at me with shock written all over his face. Seconds passed and I was beginning to think that he wouldn't let me. Sure. I know I haven't. Wait, what? I asked, shocked at his answer. I mean, it looked like he was going to turn me down. You heard me, I'll let you help us search for the Philosopher's Stone. I know you don't want it for power, so we know it won't be in the wrong hands. Edward sighed, smiling. Nissan's right, besides we would have still helped you to get home, Al said happily. Really? I asked as my eyes started to water. They only nodded. I put up my left arm to hide my tears. I was never a big fan of crying since when I was little. Crying ever did us much good. Damn, why you and your kindness, I sniffled out, and the brothers smiled at me. Good, now that things are settled, can you guys please leave the room? Since Miyuki can heal herself now, I need to make sure she didn't heal anything wrong. Winry, continue working on Ed's automail. I can do this on my own. Now get out, Pinkano ordered everybody. Everyone listened to the elderly lady and quickly left the room. Wait, Major Armstrong, I called out as he was about to leave the room. Yes, Miyuki. Can you please keep this a secret? I'm not ready to explain this to everyone. Don't worry, your secret is safe with me. Major Armstrong smiled at me before he left the room. Thank you, I whispered, thank you everyone. Pinkano only smiled at me. Well, let's see what you've done so far. I would hate to reopen the wound just for it to heal properly again. I groaned now, just realizing what my actions could have caused. Fine, let's get this over with, I mumbled as I let Pinkano check my leg. After 30 minutes of examining my leg, Pinkano finally spoke up. Well, the good news is that you healed the nerves correctly, so we won't have to reattach your leg again. Thank God, I don't want to repeat that process again. I'm still amazed that Edward managed to withstand the pain. Well, he's a strong boy, not to mention he's stubborn as a mule. He wanted to become a state alchemist and wouldn't take no for an answer when I told him that he should rethink getting automail. She chuckled. Just like Naruto, he has the will of fire. I mumbled. Will of fire? She asked. In my village, the third Hokage, or old man as I called him, told me that it's what give people strength to continue on, fighting against all odds. He said it builds the willpower and character of a person. He told us that the will of fire burned greatly within us and that we would pass it on to other people. It seems that Ed has the will of fire too. I smiled. Pinkano just chuckled. Yes, it seems he does. Now get some rest. If your leg is healed by tomorrow, I might be able to put part of your automail leg on. Will do, Pinkano. Yawn, night. I muttered as sleep took over my mind. Will do. Fuck. Ow. Goddamn stupid nerves. I hissed in pain as I laid in bed. 2 days had passed since I told everyone my story, and amazingly, they took it very well. Now yesterday I spent the whole day speeding up the healing process, which Pinkano supervised, and I still wasn't done. There were a lot of nerves that needed to be connected, and if healed wrong they could cause a lot, let me repeat, a lot of pain. Today's the day Ed leave to go back to Central. I said aloud. Well, that's if Winry's done with his automail. Man, I really wish that I could leave. I hate staying bedridden. I groaned. Yeah, that's the bad part. When you get automail, you have to stay in bed for quite some time. Pinkano chuckled at my pain as she entered my room. Sure, go laugh at my pain. Let's see how you feel when you get bedridden. I grumbled. Pinkano only gave out a hearty laugh. That'll never happen, I still got energy of a 30-year-old. Whatever, you still look old. I muttered angrily. Okay, enough of the chit-chat, let's continue from where we left off from yesterday. I think we only need about 10 more nerves to connect. 15, okay, here I go. Granny Pinkano, I finished Ed's automail. Can you help me put it on? Winry asked as she rushed into the room. Really? Well then Miyuki, can you wait just for a couple of minutes while I help Winry install Ed's automail? Pinkano asked. Sure, but can I see how you attach automail? I'm actually curious to see if it's more painful the first time it's installed or if it's about the same. Sure, we'll just bring Ed in here. Winry, call Ed. Winry nodded and left the room to find Ed. After a couple of minutes, Ed came back into the room with Winry right behind him. Okay, let's this over with. Ed grumbled, sitting on a chair as Winry and Pinkano prepared for the reconnection of Ed's new automail. As they brought in his automail, I couldn't help but admire the artwork of the metal limb. Pinkano and Winry were true geniuses when it came to automail. I'm glad that they decided to make me an automail. Okay, on 3, Winry said as she and Pinkano took their places. Winry was at Ed's right shoulder having some sort of wrench that was preparing to connect the two metals. Pinkano was at Ed's leg holding a similar object waiting for Winry's countdown, 1, 2, 3. At the same time, they turned the wrenches and I could see Edward's face twist into pain. I guess the process was still painful. It only lasted for about a couple of seconds before Edward relaxed again. I always hate the moment when the nerves have to reconnect. Oh, stop your whining, now try moving your arm. Winry told Ed as she continued working on his arm. Well, at least once you get the Philosopher's Stone you can say goodbye to that pain. You'll have your regular limbs back. I smiled at him. Yeah, that's true, we could also. If you think about restoring my leg, then I'll punch you all the way to Central. I just want to get back to my family, nothing else. Besides, this could be a reminder of you guys. I said while semi-glaring at Ed. Well, at least we know we'll still have one customer when you get your limbs back, I mean you are our main cash flow. Pinkano muttered. But why would you want to get your limbs back? I mean, isn't automail awesome? She then began to go into a trance, the smell of oil, the sound of the artificial muscle at work, and then the humming of the automail itself. Ah, the wonders of automail. Machine geek. Ed growled, getting annoyed at Winry's obsession with automail. Shut up, alchemy freak, she retorted back. It was a few more minutes before they finally finished with the reconnection and Ed was pumped. Okay, it's finally finished, how does it feel? Pinkano asked. Ed stretched his automail limbs before saying. Feels good, Granny, another job well done. Of course it is, who do you think you're talking to? Pinkano smirked. Now before you go running off, there are some changes we made. The steel you're using now has its chrome ratio raised so it's more rust resistant, but in exchange it lowered its strength, so don't go. By now Edward had gone off running, totally ignoring Winry. Winry, Ed left already. I told her while sweat dropping. Damn it, Ed, can't you listen for once? She screamed. Is this normal? I whispered to Pinkano. Yes it is, I believe he's outside probably restoring Al, and sparing against him. Really? I wonder how good they are. Shadow clone jutsu. I shouted as a clone appeared. Pinkano opened her mouth so wide she dropped her pipe to the floor before picking it up again. I'll never get used to it, she muttered. Sorry, we both said. Boss should have warned you. Yeah, this is too strange. I'm going outside. Is your are you coming? Pinkano asked. I'm going, the clone said, walking out of the room. Make sure not to beat the crap out of him, I shouted after my clone. Sure thing, boss. It was only when they left the room did I notice something that I should have noticed when I first performed the shadow clone jutsu. I never used any hand signs. Clone's paw. It was good to walk again, and it was going to be even better once I spar with Ed. It's been a while since I'd done any sparring. I wonder if Obito would spar with me when I get back to East City. Before I even knew it, I was standing outside of the house and I could now see a full armored Al ready to spar with Ed. Okay, let's. Ed didn't even finish his sentence as Al threw a punch at him. Ed quickly dodged the punch and did a backflip to avoid another punch by Al. He then counter-attacked with a kick of his own, but Al grabbed it and threw Edward. Why are you guys fighting? Major Armstrong asked as he watched the brothers spar. It's not like that, Ed explained while coming back with an attack. I'm checking the new limbs with some sparring. He dodged another punch thrown by Al. And since I wasn't able to move my body, I need to make sure I haven't lost my senses, Al said while blocking a punch from Edward. Well then, oh no, here it comes, I shall also help. Major Armstrong cried out as he took off his shirt. Ah, Edward cried as he tried running from the Major. Well, since Major Armstrong's joining the spar, mind if I step in? I asked. Al and Ed took notice of my presence and stuttered. Wait, you, bed. The boss real me is still in bed, I wanted to spar with you guys. It's been a while since I sparred. I explained. Sure, just start whenever you're ready. Al said. I smiled at him. Okay, and come at me with the intent to kill, otherwise you won't be able to land a hit on me. And don't worry, if you do kill me, I'll just disappear. Now show me what you got. I smirked as I ran towards Al. Well, what do you know, you guys are pretty good, I said as I sat on the grass waiting for Ed and Major Armstrong to catch their breath. How the hell, or why you still standing? Ed wheezed out. Lots of practice, besides I started at the age of 6 I think, and I still continue to work out so I won't get rusty. I smiled at them. Such endurance, even the Armstrong. Who's hungry? I asked before Major Armstrong could go into his family history. I am, Edward cried, standing up as if he still had boundless of energy to burn. Yes, let's go and eat some lunch, Armstrong said as he grabbed his shirt and started combing his hair. Granny, what's for lunch? Edward yelled as we entered the kitchen. Instead of the tiny grandma in the kitchen, there were 3 me's in there cooking lunch. Oh, hello Ed, Al, Major Armstrong, lunch will be ready in a few minutes, Pincano is still working with boss, so that's why we're here. All 3 of them said in unison. I had to laugh at the faces all 3 of them made as they saw all of them. This is creepy. Al whimpered. I agree. Ed gulped. Oh, Clone 1, boss, says you should dispel, she wants to know how bad you beat the shrimp there. Hey. Sure thing, I smiled as I dispelled myself. Boss is sure going to love the memories. Back to Miyuki's paw. Something wrong, Miyuki? Asked Pincano as I suddenly stopped healing my leg. I had just received the memories of my first clone and I had to smile. Even though Edward and Al were pretty good at hand-to-hand combat, they still needed a few more years before they can fight at my level. Oh, it's nothing, I just received the memories of my clone, that's all, I said, returning my attention back to my leg. Just then, one of my clones popped their head into my room. Hey Pincano, lunch is ready. Everyone's waiting for you guys. Very well, we'll continue after lunch. At least we only need 3 more nerves, Pincano said as she and my clone helped me up. I know, and then it's automail attachment and then rehabilitation, I said as I grabbed the neck around my clone's body as she put me on her back. Hey, hurry up, we're starving here, we heard Ed shout from the kitchen. Hey, be grateful, you brat. If Pincano was making lunch by herself, you guys would still be waiting, I shouted. Pincano chuckled at my childlike behavior. Who are you calling a brat, you hobo? Edward yelled as we entered the room. Hobo. Just because my hair's a mess does not mean I'm a hobo, you ungrateful little fucker. Shut up, Winry yelled at us and threw wrenches at both of us. It hit Ed dead on, but I managed to catch mine in midair. Very well Winry, now let's eat. Itadaki masu. It was an eventful lunch, I must say, with Ed and me shouting at each other, Winry throwing wrenches, Major Armstrong taking off his shirt. Okay, that was just plain weird, anyways it was one of the best lunches I had since my arrival here. Aw, now that was a good meal, you sure can cook. Ed smiled in content as he finished his 4th plate. That boy's hunger could rival Choji's or even Naruto's. Are you sure? I mean, I did forget to add some spice. Nonsense, this is like eating at a 5-star restaurant, Pincano said. She's right, not many cooks can cook like this, Major Armstrong said, and I blushed a deep red. Thank you, I'm glad you like it. When I get my body back you have to cook me something. Al cried happily. That I will make sure of. I smiled at him. That's a promise, Alphonse, I'll make sure you get your body back. After lunch, we went back to healing my leg, and after 10 minutes I am glad to say that I'm done. Finally. I thought we would never finish. I sighed as the last of the nerves were finally healed. I'm just amazed that you finished it in 3 days. It usually takes months. Pincano chuckled. Well, since your leg's healed now I have time to make some more adjustments to your leg. Take the rest of the day to rest now, Pincano said as she left the room. Okay, night, Ba-chan, I muttered as closed my eyes. Night, Miyuki, I heard her whisper back as she closed the door, leaving me in peace. Once again, I had a dreamless sleep, and it only felt like I had only 5 minutes of sleep when I woke up. I looked outside the window and I could see the sun barely rising. I heard voices in the living room and then footsteps heading towards me room. Miyuki, are you awake? Pincano asked behind my door. Yeah, Yan, What's going on? I sleepily asked. I really needed some coffee right now. Edward's leaving, I'm just wondering if you want to say goodbye. This early? I guess Ed's really wants to go to Central. Just give me a sec, I'll be out there in a moment. Shadow clone jutsu. My clone appeared and automatically put me on her back and we walked out of the room. We exited the house and I could see Ed with his suitcase, Major Armstrong behind him, and Al next to him. Hey Miyuki, I didn't think you would be awake this early. Ed said as he saw me. When you live the life I have you tend to wake up either very early in the morning or late at night. So heading to Central. Yes, Nissan can't wait another day. He really wants to see Dr. Marcos' research notes. Al said. I can see that, so you're going with the Major Armstrong. Yes I am, but I can stay if you. I can take care of myself. Besides my hands are completely healed so I can use alchemy if Scar comes here, which I doubt. Are you sure? I'm positive, besides Ed needs more protection, he's still a teenager. I assured him. Very well, just stay safe. Hey, where's Winry? Al asked, noticing that she wasn't here. She's still sleeping. She stayed up for 3 whole nights. You want me to wake her up? Pinkano asked. Nah, it's okay, besides Winry would just nag me about taking care of her automail if she was here. Let her sleep. Ed sighed as he turned from the house, already taking a couple of steps. Come back sometime to eat dinner with us, you hear? Pinkano called out. Sure, Al said while his brother had a different answer. Why come this deep into the mountains just to eat dinner? You're just lazy, that's all. I replied. I'm not lazy. I just don't like to waste time, that's all. He shouted. I laughed at his remark. Whatever. Oh Ed, when you find information about the stone, call here so I can come down to Central, okay? I don't think you'll be walking anytime soon. Rehabilitation takes a long time. I only smirked at him. Don't underestimate me. I'll be up and walking before you know it. I yelled. Hey Ed, Al. Came a sleepy voice above us. We all looked up and saw Winry in her pajamas giving the brothers a sleepy wave. See, you guys soon, okay? Ed quickly turned around but he still gave a wave to her. Yeah, see ya. Bye Granny, Winry, Miyuki. See you guys later. Al cried. We watched the trio walk up to the hill before they disappeared into the sunset. It's going to be quiet around the house now. I muttered. Yes, it does get quiet when Ed and Al leave. But there's nothing we can do but give them a place to stay. Pinkano said as we entered the house. So are we going to install my automail leg now? I asked hopefully as my clone dropped me off in my room. I was beginning to hate this room, also known as my jail. Sorry, not just yet. I need Winry to help me and I don't want to wake her up yet. I only pouted. I really wanted to get my leg so I could move around freely. Pinkano chuckled when she saw the face I was making. Just be patient, she'll wake up soon. Soon, I later learned would be about 10 hours later, but I wasn't mad or anything. Winry needed her rest, and since she stayed up for 3 nights in a row and not to mention helped Pinkano design my leg. Morning Granny, Winry sleepily said as she came down the stairs. Morning. It's more like good night. Pinkano told her. Winry picked up a clock to make sure that her grandma was telling the truth. I slept the whole day. Man, I must have been really tired. Winry muttered. Clean up the workbench since you're down here now. Pinkano said as she went into the kitchen to make dinner. This place is a mess. Why is it that whenever Ed comes over big things tends to happen? Winry said as she cleaned her desk. Well, it's much cleaner than my work desk at home. I just throw everything on my desk and it takes me hours to find papers sometimes. I smiled at her. Oh hey Miyuki, Yan, how are you? I'm fine. That's good. What's this? She asked herself as she picked up a screw. Recognition went across her face and then it was replaced with frustration. What's wrong? I forgot to put this screw in Ed's automail arm. She groaned. Well, I don't think it had a great impact, I mean he was sparring great with it. I said, trying to reassure her that one little mistake wasn't something to beat yourself over. Sigh, I guess you're right. Oh well, hey Granny, what for dinner? She called out. Stew, replied the grandma, and then after dinner we'll install Miyuki's leg and call it a day, okay? Yes, finally I get my leg. I cried out in happiness. Winry laughed at my outburst and helped me get into the kitchen. Quickly I ate my stew, which was one of the best stew I ever had, and created a clone to put me back on my bed and waited for my leg. You're sure happy to get a shock to your nerves. Pinkano chuckled. Well, it's just for a couple seconds, right? And after that I can finally move on my own 2 legs. Hurry up, Ba-chan. Sorry, I mean Pinkano. I blushed. It's fine, now let's move on to the procedure. Winry handed me the leg and the stool. We don't want to install her leg the wrong way now, do we? Pinkano said as she hot out the same wrench she used to connect Ed's automail. Here you go, Granny, are you ready for your leg, Miyuki? Winry asked as she brought in my new automail leg. I didn't answer her as I was busy admiring my leg. It was different than Ed's, that for sure. It was much slimmer since it's probably a female version. It looked just like a regular leg would, but instead of skin, shiny silver metal replaced it. I must say they knew how to create a leg. So what now? I asked. Just sit down on the bed and relax. When we connect the nerves it'll be painful and you'll probably trash around since it's your first time, but try not to. If we connect it wrong, we'll have to reconnect it. So stay still, Pinkano ordered. Yes ma'am. I saluted her and relaxed myself as much as possible. On the count of 3, Winry started. 1, 2, 3. I heard the wrench turn and I felt a huge electricity shock go throughout my entire right leg. Now I see why Ed dreaded the reattachment, it hurts like a bitch. Holy mother of fuck. I screamed as my nerves connected to the metallic limb. Stay still, Miyuki, we still need to screw in the screws so the automail will stay in place. Pinkano warned me. I could only nod as I bit my lip to stop my screaming. Slowly but surely, the pain subsided and it turned into a throbbing pain that I could ignore. Do you want some water, Miyuki? Asked Winry. Why yes please. I groaned as she handed me a cup of water. Well, the installment went well, try moving your toes. Pinkano said. I gave her a fierce nod and concentrated on making my toes move. At first when I tried to move my toes, I was rewarded with another shock of electricity, but I didn't give up. It only took me about 5 more tries to move my toes without wincing in pain. Good, now rest and we'll continue tomorrow. Who knows, maybe with your healing abilities you'll be able to walk in less than a year. Pinkano chuckled. A month, I said. Winry and Pinkano both stopped and looked at me. I gave them a smirk. I'll be walking and running in a month. You can count on that. They both looked shocked for a moment before smiling at me. I'm pretty sure you will, Miyuki. God damn it. I will make it to the barber's shop. I will walk all the way there and back without taking a single break. I screamed at the top of my lungs as I faced the road to town once again. It has been 5 days since my automail had been installed and so far I was making excellent progress. I could effectively walk around the house without much pain, but I couldn't walk for long distances like to the middle of town where all the food supply were and barber's shop was. I finally had enough of my hair. I wanted to get it cut, and what better way to motivate myself than to go to the barber's shop that happened to be almost at the other side of the Rockbell's home. I had tried to go yesterday, but I had to come back once I reached the middle of the town due to my leg pain. Today I was determined to make it to the barber's shop without stopping. I'm sure you will, Winry said, trying to be supportive. Granny, we'll be back in a couple of hours. She called to Pinkano. Okay, oh, and while you're at it bring back some bread and milk, we ran out of them. Okay, hey Miyuki, wait. Winry shouted, as I was already halfway up the hill. Nothing was going to stop me, and once an Uzumaki put their mind to it, there's no way they can be stopped. Halfway to the barber's shop I could feel my legs starting to throb, but it was nothing I couldn't handle and continued forward. After walking for about 10 minutes I could faintly see the outline of the barber's shop ahead of me. Finally. Come on Winry, let's go. I cried as I sped up, ignoring the painful jolts sent up my leg. Once we entered the shop I immediately sat down and took a couple of seconds to recover before asking one of the hair stylists to give me a haircut. Yes, I can see you are in desperate need of one. Come sit down over here and I'll be with you shortly, the stylist said as he went to get his materials. So how are you going to cut it? Winry asked as she took a seat next to me. There wasn't many people here, so they let her sit next to me while she waited. I'll probably cut it short since there's not really much they can do to save my hair, I said sadly. Like Sakura, I loved having my hair long, but it wasn't to impress any guys. It was because that was the only way I looked like my mother, since I didn't have any of her features. You see, I'd always asked old man about my parents and whether if I looked like them. He would always say I had my father's eyes but nothing else, and then one day he let it slip that my mother had long red hair. Ever since then I grew my hair long in hopes that one day someone would say, "Oh, you look just like your mother," and tell us more about them. Of course, it was only a child's dream, but it stayed with me. You're right, there's not much we can do except cut it short to keep it even, the barber said as he came back with the scissors. If I cut it evenly your hair would end around the end of your face, is that okay? I sighed in defeat. Yeah, that's fine. He nodded and grabbed a piece of my hair and started to cut. It looks very nice, Winry commented on my new hairstyle. Thanks, the barber did a good job in cutting it. At least now my hair won't get in the way, I said as I put my hands in my hair for the 10th time. It felt so strange having my hair so short when all my life I've had it so long. We walked the rest of the way home after buying some bread and milk, asking questions about each other. By the time she started asking questions about me, we already arrived back home and I could see Pinkano waiting for us at the door. Miyuki, good timing, there's a phone call for you. Who is it? I asked, as I got closer. A man by the name of Roy. Does it ring any bells? I cursed under my breath when I heard that bastard's name. Where's the phone? I grumbled. Down the hall to your left. She pointed out and I slowly walked over there. I really wasn't looking forward to talking with that bastard, but I guess it couldn't be helped. Once I reached the phone, I picked it up and sighed before asking. Colonel Mustang. Ah Miyuki, how are you doing? He asked cheerfully. I'm fine, why are you asking? I asked confused. Hell, why are you even calling me? Why can't I call one of my subordinates to see how they are doing? I swear I could see the bastard smirking right now. Cut the crap, Mustang, now what's your real reason in calling me? I snarled at the phone. I really wasn't in the mood to fight with him. When he didn't answer right away, I could tell he wanted to say something important. What's wrong, Mustang? I could hear him sigh and I think I heard him mutter something. Miyuki, I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to take you off of State Alchemist list. What? What? But why? I screamed into the phone. I couldn't lose my State Alchemist title. I needed to search for stone, and how was I going to do that if I wasn't a State Alchemist? I'm sorry Miyuki, but with you taking automail surgery it would take about 3 years for you to come back to work in the military, can't? By the end of the month. I interrupted him. What? By the end of the month I'll be up and walking. I'll be in perfect shape by the end of the month, so please tell the military to wait. I need my State Alchemist license. I begged him. He stayed silent for a while before saying. You do know how absurd that sounds, right? Edward barely completed his rehabilitation in about a year. I hardly think you can finish rehabilitation in 3 weeks, so why should ask the military to hold your resignation? He coldly asked. Because, with more determination I had in the morning, I told him, I made a promise to my family, I'll fulfill it no matter what happens, and I refuse to let anything slow me down. It was quiet for a couple of seconds before I heard Mustang chuckling. Hey, this is not a laughing matter. I shouted. Very well Miyuki, I'll ask the military to hold your resignation until the end of the month. If you're not ready by then I can't help you. I sighed in relief. Thank you Roy, I owe you one. Well then how about a... Don't push your luck, bastard. I growled out. I heard a door open over the phone and I heard Mustang curse. I expect you to be back in East City by the end of the month. Don't make me regret this. And he hung up on me, but not before I heard a gunshot and Rize's commanding voice. Hello? I asked as I heard the dial tone. Okay then. Who was that? Winry asked. Colonel Roy Mustang. He was calling to say that because of my automail surgery and the time it takes for the rehabilitation I was going to have to resign. What? But he can't, you still have to find the Philosopher's Stone. But I managed to ask him to hold my resignation until the end of the month to hold my resignation. I interrupted Winry. By the end of the month. That's about 3 weeks away. Are you sure you can pull it off? Pinkano asked. I'm an Uzumaki, we never give up, that's our ninja way. Now if you shall excuse me, I'm going to walk around town again. I said, walking back out the door. But you just... I only have 3 weeks to be back in the shape I was before, I need to get stronger. I smirked. I won't be back until around 7, okay. See ya, I called out as I walked back into town, strengthening my legs. Take that, I screamed as delivered a punch to one of my unsuspecting clone. Ah, she screamed as she disappeared in a puff of smoke. Suddenly I sensed another 3 clones coming from behind me and I quickly jumped out of the way. While I was in the air, one of the clones jumped onto one of a clone's back and tried to punch me. Quickly I clapped my hands and I created a whirlwind that blew her and the other clones away. Once I landed on the floor I charged at them and with my right leg I delivered a chakra-powered kick. But like the other times I tried this, my leg flared up in pain, causing me to fall down once again. Damn it, I whimpered, it still hurts. Miyuki, come back in, it's time for lunch. Pinkano called out from the backyard. See coming, I groaned as I sat up. You okay, boss? One of my clones asked me. I'm fine, but it's my leg. Every time I try to add more chakra to it, it brings me pain. I don't understand why though. I screamed in frustration. Just help me up, I grumbled, and the clone complied and helped me back to the house. It's been 2 weeks since the call I got from Mustang. Ever since then I've been working my ass off to walk, run, jump, and fight with my leg. I'll admit I've fainted a couple of times due to the pain my leg brought when I overworked it, but I got back up and continued training. I couldn't afford to lose time, I had a deadline to meet and I was determined to be ready by then. Now I can walk, run, jump and fight almost as well as I did before. The only problem is that I can't use much chakra in my automail leg. Sure, I can walk up walls, water, trees, give an extra boost in my jumps, and run quicker than most people can run. I can't do anything else though. Every time I try to put more chakra in my leg, pain flares up, causing me to fall in pain. It frustrated me to no end. Still having problems? Winry asked when she saw me entering the kitchen. Yes, I still don't know why it does that. I groaned as I slammed my head onto the table. Maybe the automail can't handle that much chakra. I mumbled. Quickly I moved out of the way as a wrench was aimed at me. Don't blame your chakra problems on my automail. Nothing's wrong with it, she growled. I don't mean it like that. Your automail is perfect, it's just that maybe the wiring doesn't work well with chakra. After all, automail is meant for nerves only and not chakra. But then again, chakra runs through the nerves, so maybe the artificial nerves can't handle too much. I asked myself. Lunch is ready, Pinkano said as she brought out lunch, a simple salami sandwich. Smells good, Ba-chan. I smiled as I grabbed my sandwich. Thank you. Suddenly the phone rang. I got it, I said as I went to answer the phone. Hello, Rockbell's automail service, how can we help you? I asked into the phone. Miyuki, is that you? Ed, I hate to sound rude, but why are you calling? From what Winry tells me you hardly ever call. I heard chuckle nervously over the phone. Yeah, about that. Can I talk to Winry? I need to ask her something. I sighed. You broke your automail, didn't you, Ed? What? Winry cried and I cringed. That girl could sure yell. Oh no, don't put her on the phone, don't put her, but I couldn't do anything as Winry came marching in and took the phone from me. What happened, Ed? She said in a surprisingly calm voice. Can you come to Central? My automail is broken. Broken how? She asked, a little bit nervous. Well, my fingers are moving but the rest of the arm isn't moving. Winry then sighed. So it was broken, she muttered as she took out the screw from her pocket. Oh, who knew a screw could malfunction in automail? So what did you do, carry something heavy or swing your arm around too much? She asked. I got into a fight. Ooh, wrong answer, Edward, now we both have to suffer from Winry's screaming. What, you broke it again? How could you be so careless? She shouted. I think I went deaf for a couple of seconds. So where's Central? She asked. What? Ed and I asked at the same time. I said where's Central, I'll be coming down and do whatever maintenance I have to do. So where should I go? She asked. Why are you so nice today? He asked suspiciously. What are you talking about? I'm always nice. She argued back quickly. I can take you to Central if you want. I need to get to East City soon so I can drop you off before I leave. I suggested. Really? Winry asked. Really what? I didn't say anything. Oh, that was Miyuki, she offered to take me to Central, so I'll be there by tomorrow, so see you soon, okay, bye. She said as she hung up on Ed. She then turned towards me and smiled. Well, let's get packing, we have to get to Central soon. But before she could go upstairs, I grabbed her by her shirt and dragged her back to the kitchen. Oh no, I'm not going anywhere until I have lunch, so eat your sandwich and then we can pack. I said while taking a bite of my sandwich. After finishing our sandwiches, we quickly packed our bags and in less than half an hour we were already at the door. Bye Granny, we'll be back soon. Winry waved as we made our way to the train station. Bye Ba-chan, I'll come visit sometimes. I shouted. Take care both of you. She called out before we couldn't see her anymore. So what did Ed say to look for? I asked Winry as we got off the train. Winry had called Ed again and he told her that there would be someone to pick us up from the station. Apparently, he told her that there would be a landmark at the west side of the gate. Great description, Ed. I know it sounds weird, but that's what he told me. Now keep out a lookout for a landmark at the west gate. She sighed. So I listened to her and looked for anything that stood out. Let's see, there's a guy with a huge and suspicious bag on his shoulders, a woman singing at the top of her lungs trying to get money, Major Armstrong, a dog dancing. Oh, Major Armstrong. I tapped Winry on her shoulder and pointed at Major Armstrong. I think that's the landmark, I said as I waved to Major Armstrong. Oh, hello Major Armstrong. Winry greeted the Armstrong alchemist. Hello Winry, and hello to you Major Sabaku. Wait, I thought you were still in rehabilitation. Major Armstrong cried out as he noticed that I was walking on my own 2 legs, well, one automail and flesh leg. Well, I had a deadline to meet, so I pushed myself to finish my rehabilitation. Then I leaned closer to him and whispered, and it also helps that my healing abilities helped speed up the process. He nodded his head in understanding. Ah, I see, but still, to complete it in a month, that's no easy feat. Winry agreed with him. Yeah, it takes most people 3 years, and even Ed took a year to be able to walk normally. I gave them a smirk. Well, that's because I'm special. Now let's get going so Winry can hit Ed with her wrench. I laughed, but then I stopped abruptly. Where is Ed, by the way? I asked sheepishly. Ah, you see, Ed is in the hospital. The hospital? Roy's paw. It was almost near the end of the month now, and I was worried that Miyuki wasn't going to show up. I'm starting to wonder why I even asked the Führer to hold her resignation papers until then. That's because you were moved by her statement, idiot. Because, I made a promise to my family, I'll fulfill it no matter what happens, and I refuse to let anything slow me down. Groaning, I slammed my head on the table. How is it that this woman who I barely known for about 2 months can make me risk everything I worked for just to help her? Because you're falling for her. I'm not falling for her. I growled to myself, but I couldn't help but think about it. Could I really be falling for her? She was the only woman, besides Riza, who didn't fall for my charms. She wasn't afraid of anything, and she would use force if it was needed. She was scary when she was angry. She also had a soft and caring side that would show a lot around the Elric brothers. She would become a real good wife to whomever she married. Like to you. I slammed my head harder onto the desk and cursed myself for even thinking such thoughts. She was his subordinate, nothing more. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, and I prayed that it wasn't Lieutenant Hawkeye with more paperwork. Sir, there's a phone call for you, Lieutenant Hawkeye said when she entered the door. I sighed in relief, at least it wasn't more paperwork. Who is it? I asked as I went to pick up the phone. Lieutenant Colonel Hughes. And I immediately cursed myself for picking up the phone as I heard my best friend voice yell out. Hey Roy, what's up? Hughes, why are you calling? I said in annoyance. Even though he was my best friend, he could be a handful sometimes. Because I have some wonderful news. My daughter's going to turn 3. Isn't that exciting? I could feel tick marks forming at my forehead. Hughes, you do know that I'm busy at work. I growled out. Well, what do you know, so am I. He cried happily into the phone. Besides, I have to tell you how cute Alicia is every day. I get it, Hughes, she's cute, but don't go bragging about your daughter, especially on a military line. I nearly shouted. It's not just my daughter I'm bragging about, it's my wife too. I was this close to slamming the phone. I wonder if I can burn you through the phone. I growled out. Ooh, the flame alchemist scaring me. Oh, speaking about alchemy, did you find Scar yet? No, not yet. There was an explosion, so he might be one of the unidentified bodies, but we don't know yet. Oh well, at least the Elric brothers will be safe now. Oh, speaking of the brothers, where are they? From what last heard from them, they're at Central. Major Armstrong's looking after them. Central, huh? From what I hear, Scar took out a lot of the higher ranking alchemist, and now they need some more state alchemist. Now that got my attention. Oh really? I smirked, listening for more details. Yeah, and I heard a rumor that a certain Colonel Mustang is going to be assigned to Central. My smirk got even larger. Central, huh? If I went to Central, my dreams of becoming Führer would be much closer. That isn't so bad. Careful, Roy. When you get that high into ranking at your age, you'll make more enemies. Hughes warned me. Don't worry, I'm prepared for that. Make sure you have at least one more person to understand and support you, like Miyuki, who knows, maybe you can get married. And I didn't even bother listening to the rest as I slammed the phone down while still blushing about his comment. Don't be so ridiculous. But I couldn't help but thinking that maybe I should follow his advice. Damn it, I need to burn something. I'll be back, I said in a barely controlled voice, storming out of the room. Damn it, Miyuki, why do you make me feel this way? Miyuki's paw. What the hell happened? Winry screamed as she saw Ed wrapped in bandages. Even I was shocked to see him so injured. I agree with Winry. What the fuck happened? I said as I entered the room. Miyuki, is that you? Al cried in surprise. In the flesh, well, part flesh, but you get the point. I almost didn't recognize you, especially with your hair now short. I chuckled at his statement. It was true, I hardly looked like myself with the new haircut. But how I thought it would take at least a year to complete the rehabilitation. Ed mumbled out of his mummy wrappings. Well, it took less, so how I beat your record. I stuck my tongue out at him childishly, but seriously, I said in my normal voice, how did you get so injured? Well, it wasn't that bad at first, but then, he only pointed at Major Armstrong. Major Armstrong? I asked. Yup. Winry and I both sweat dropped at this. Well, let's get you out of those bandages so Winry can get your automail fixed. I sighed as I started removing his mummy clothing. Damn it, Ed, why do you have to do reckless things? Winry complained, but there was worried etched into her voice. "'Cause he a rebellious teen. Don't worry, Ed, I was just like you when I was your age. Always going into battles and getting injured, making my brother worry sick about me. Not helping." Winry yelled at me. I winced at her loud tone. "But, you're still pretty injured, aren't you?" she asked. Ed said nothing, but I could see from his bandages that he had either broken or bruised ribs, a head wounds, and multiple cuts. I would have to look at his injuries later one when the other military officers leave. "Don't worry, I'm fine," he grumbled. "I heal pretty fast." Winry said nothing though, and that made him look up. "What's wrong, Winry? You got hurt because I didn't fix your automail well enough, right?" she said in a small voice. Silence. I could see Ed panicking, thinking of things to say to Winry so she would feel bad about him getting hurt. I almost laughed at his attempts, and then I couldn't hold it in anymore when Winry realized that he didn't notice that she forgot to put the screw in and immediately asked for the price. But suddenly she stopped and noticed his hospital meal. "You left the milk," she growled out, and Edward stiffened up and looked away. They stayed silent for a couple of seconds before Ed mumbled out, "I hate milk." Winry exploded. "You're going to stay a midget forever if you don't drink milk." "There's no way I'm drinking that crap." "Edward, drink the milk." "No. Drink it." This went on for at least a minute before I had enough of it. "Damn it, Ed, drink the milk, otherwise I'll force it down your throat," I threatened him. "No." Once he said the two-letter word, I grabbed the milk, pinched his nose closed and put the milk in mouth, forcing him to drink it, otherwise faint from the lack of oxygen. "You'll drink the milk, and if you try to spit it out at me, I'll make sure you stay in the hospital for more than a month, got it?" I chuckled a little bit insanely. Ed didn't nod, and I could see him go blue. "Ed, drink the god damn milk." Suddenly I heard the door close behind us and I saw that Al had left. "Al?" I asked, even though he already felt the room. Then I turned towards Edward, who took my distraction to get rid of the milk but also looked worried for his brother, and asked him, "What's wrong with Al? Did you guys have a fight or something?" "No, but now that I think about it, Al's been acting a little bit strange," Ed said as he laid on his stomach so Winry could start fixing his arm. "Strange how?" Winry asked. "He's not talking much, it's like he has something on his mind." You don't think he's shocked that I hit him, do you?" asked the panicked blonde officer. "I don't think so," I mumbled. "Maybe he thinking about you, Ed." I thought aloud. "What, why me? Does he think that I got hurt was his fault?" Ed asked. "What, oh no, not like that, I mean maybe someone told him something to question about the bond you guys have. I remember my brother acting like that when people, you get the point, right?" I asked, not wanting to go into much details about my past. "Yeah, but what got Al thinking?" Winry asked. "I don't know." Ed grumbled, clearly annoyed that he doesn't know his brother as well as he should. "I got it," the blonde officer cried. "He's got a crush." We all sweat dropped at his idea. "And no, I don't think that's it," I said. "Okay, I finished fixing your arm," Winry said as she got up from her seat. "Try it out." Quickly Ed sat up and flexed his right arm. "Yup, it's good, nice job, Winry." "Good now." Suddenly the door opened and out came Maze. This could be either good or bad. "Hey Ed, getting it on with two women in your hospital room?" Ed collapsed from his idea. Winry just stood there wondering who Maze was, and I was ready to punch the daylights out of him. "Hughes, care to repeat that?" I smiled sweetly at him while clenching my fist. He gulped and stepped carefully away from me. "And no, not really. I want to live," he cried. I only sighed in annoyance. Maze, however funny he is, could be a pain in the ass. "Winry," Ed sighed, "this is Lieutenant Colonel Hughes." "Oh, I'm Winry Rockbell, nice to meet you." Winry greeted him. "I'm Maze Hughes, pleased to meet you. And Miyuki, I almost didn't recognize you with your haircut. Not to mention I thought you were still in Reasonable recovering." I chuckled nervously. "Well, I tend to heal faster, so I finished my rehabilitation in a month." I asked myself, that was the crappiest lie you ever told Miyuki. "Really? Wow, that's faster than Eddie over here." Hughes smiled. "Hey. Yeah, so why are you here? Shouldn't you be working?" I asked, changing the subject. "Don't worry, I'm off in the afternoons." "But don't you have a lot of work and can't afford to take a break?" Ed asked. "No need to worry. I gave Seska the overtime work." He cried happily. "You monster," Ed mumbled. Anyways, I came here to see you guys and I've got some information about Scar. He told us in a serious voice. Hearing Scar's name, my hand subconsciously got to my automail leg and rubbed it. It looks like we can release you from our watch since there hasn't been a sighting of him for quite some time now. Really? Ed shouted, finally I can get rid of the annoying escorts. Hey, that's mean. The blonde officer cried. Hey, just think what would happen to you if we weren't there. The short black-haired lady growled. Escorts? What kind of trouble have you been getting into, Ed? Winry said angrily. Nothing really. It's not a big deal. Ed muttered. Winry sighed knowing that Ed wouldn't answer any more questions if she kept asking. Fine, well I'll see you tomorrow, I have to find an inn to sleep for the night. Winry said. Why don't you sleep in one of the military lodges, you can get a discount if you mention my name. Edward suggested. No, that's okay. Well, you can stay with me at my house. Hughes exclaimed. But I can't impose on some I just meet in. Don't worry, besides my family would love to see you. Okay, let's get you settled. Hughes said happily as he dragged Winry to his house. We all just stood there wondering what just happened. After a couple of seconds, I regained my posture and said. Well, I'll go and check on Winry, I'll be back tomorrow. I muttered as I went to follow Ed's automail mechanic. Bye, Ed said as I left the room. It actually took me a while for me to find the duo, I never knew a man could walk so fast while dragging a teenager girl with him. By the time I found them, I saw Winry carrying a huge teddy bear and Hughes was carrying a couple of smaller presents. Winry, Hughes, there you are, I've been looking for you guys. How the heck did you guys buy so much stuff in such short time? I asked while jogging up to them. Oh hey Miyuki, want to come with us? Hughes asked. Sure, but where are we going exactly? Today's my daughter's 3rd birthday, so we're planning a party at our place. Today's Alicia's birthday. Crap, I didn't get her anything. I said, freaking out. I always gave presents for my friends and brother when it was their birthday and I couldn't stop that now. Don't worry, I think that Alicia will be happy if you came. Oh, here we are. Can you ring the doorbell, Miyuki? Hughes asked since he had his hands full of presents. I complied, and when the door opened, Garcia and little Alicia greeted me. Auntie Yuki, you came, she cried. How she knew it was me, I have no idea, and latched onto my leg. Immediately I stiffened. She called me an aunt, she called me her aunt. Damn it, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry. I forced a smile on my face and said. Of course, I couldn't miss you turning 3, that's an important age after all. She nodded and inspected Winry. Miyuki, how are you doing? Garcia kindly asked me as she led us into her house. Fine, I'm getting used to the automail, it's like I never had an accident. I smiled at her. That's good to know, I heard it's very painful. Oh yeah, it's painful, but at least it's over. I said. Are you sure I can stay here? Winry asked, I feel like I'm intruding. It's okay, besides having more people at festivals is more fun. Hughes smiled at her holding his daughter. You'll stay for a while, right Miyuki? I gave them a soft smile. Sure. And once entered the house I could see a whole bunch of people had already arrived and had the party going in full swing. We ate the meal prepared by Garcia, which I think could probably feed the whole Akmaiki clan, laughed at the stories the relatives told, laughing at the kids, and overall having fun. It's been a while since I had fun like this. I think the last time we had a party was Winry's 6th birthday. It felt good to be able to let loose and smile, not having a care in the world. As Alicia was starting to open her presents, I couldn't help but feel a little bit envious of her. She probably got more presents in this birthday than Naruto and I combined during our childhood. I don't think we ever even got a present during our childhood, but all the feeling disappeared when I saw her face lit with happiness with very present she held. She deserved it, after all I did say turning 3 was a big thing, she should get all these presents. Daddy, she cried, the mouse you got isn't moving. She handed her father the broken mouse. Oh, I guess it's defective. Hughes said. Can you let me look at it? Maybe I can fix it. Winry said. I guess what Ed said about her being a machine geek was true. Since she was able to fix that mechanical mouse, I would have just gone back to the store and asked them to fix it. Ooh, the kid's odd when Winry gave the mouse back and it was working once again. You're a toy doctor. Alicia cried with stars in her eyes. No, not really, but something close to that. Winry explained. Alicia then turned towards me and asked. Can you do something like that? I chuckled nervously. No, but there are other cool things I can do. Can you hand me a piece of paper? I asked. Alicia nodded and ran to her mother asking for a piece of paper. She came back a minute later and handed me a light blue paper. Okay, I'm going to create a crane and it's going to fly okay. Now we fold here, and there, and over there. I carefully created my crane as I would put chakra into it, making it able to fly. Just like how Conan used origami to fly, attack, and defend. And it's done. Now to let it fly, just throw it in the air and it'll fly on its own. I smiled at her as I gave her the origami, which I guess was now her birthday present. Not wanting to waste another minute, she threw the crane up into the air. She along with the other kids gasped at the sight. Daddy, Daddy, come watch the crane fly. Alicia cried out. Fly? What do you, holy cow. It's actually flying, Hughes shouted as he entered the room with Winry. Winry came closer to me and whispered. Is that something to do with chakra? I smiled and nodded at her. You'd be surprised to see how chakra can be used. This is just child's play. You did this? Hughes asked from behind us. Geez Hughes, you scared me, I said, forcing my hand away from my kunai that I hidden in my jacket. You never scare a ninja unless you want to end up at the hospital. Yeah, it's a family secret. I used to make these for my daughters. I semi-lied. He looked at me suspiciously, but he let go of the subject as soon as he saw his daughter being surrounded by a couple of boys. Hey punks, he muttered darkly, don't touch my daughter. And to make his point he released the safety lock on the gun, scaring the kids shitless. Maze. Both Winry, I cried. Hey Al, Ed, how are you doing? You left the milk, again. I shouted at him. I had left the Hughes house around 9 last night and I went to bunk at the military lodges. Today I woke up around 6 and went to look around town since I couldn't visit Ed until like 9. So imagine when I come in and the milk still sitting on his tray of food untouched. I'm a little cranky. Hey Miyuki, how are you doing? Ed asked nervously. I glared at him for a couple of minutes before I gave in and sighed. This kid was stubborn as a mule and I knew if he didn't want milk he wouldn't drink it. You win this round Ed, but next time you might be so lucky. I growled at him, so don't get mad at me when I call you a pipsqueak, since you never drink your milk. Hey. Shut it. I hissed at him and quickly he obeyed. Nissan, you should drink your milk. Al said. No, I don't like that crap, besides I'm not going to die from not drinking milk. I'm going to hit my growth spurt soon. I scoffed at that, and Ed glared at me before continuing. You're lucky Al, you're so big and, never did I thought that I would see Al lose it, and to make matters worse, Winry just entered the room. I never wanted a body this big. We all stood there eyes wide and shock written all over our faces. I didn't think Al could get this mad. I didn't want this body. Al said shaking. Al, I'm sorry. It's my fault that I screwed up, but I'm going to make everything right. We'll get your body back in. And how do I know that you're going to bring back my body? Al interrupted his brother. Because I'm your brother. Am I really, or am I just a soul you put in a suit of armor telling me that I'm your brother? How do I know that you're telling the truth? You could have just implanted the memories in me and told me that they were my memories. I remember you said you wanted to say something to me. Did you want to tell me that all my memories are fake and that I'm not really your brother but just a puppet so you can get our own arm and legs back? Al shouted. I wanted to intervene. I wanted to get rid of this deja vu memory. I wanted to do anything to get these brothers to stop arguing, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Ed slammed his fists on the table, gaining my and everyone's attention back at him. Is that what you've thinking this whole time? Is that everything you have to say? Ed growled, trying his hardest not to break the table. Then he relaxed and I could see the sadness in his eyes as he whispered 2 words. I see. He moved the tray in front of him and walked away. Ed, Ed, Ed. Winry cried, trying to go after him but stopped herself. I was still frozen on the spot trying to get over my shock, but before I could do anything, I was shocked back into silence when Winry took out her huge wrench and hit Al with it. You idiot, she cried angrily while hitting Al again for another good measure, I think. What was that for? Al asked, confused. Winry didn't say anything, but soon her angry face was filled with angry tears. She didn't answer but hit Al again and again repeatedly. You idiot, you don't know how Ed feels. The thing he was too scared to tell you was, if you blamed him for what happened. She yelled. That seemed to hit a chord in Al and stood still, absorbing the words Winry told him. You idiot, what kind of person would almost throw away their own life to create a fake brother? Winry was full blown out crying and stopped hitting Al now. Isn't he your only brother? She cried. All stood still until Winry composed herself again and pointed at the door. Go after him, she yelled at him. It took Al a couple of seconds to register what she was saying before he quickly got up and chased after his brother. Okay, I'm going, he yelled as he ran down the hospital halls tracking his brother. We stayed silent until I broke it, muttering. They quickly got over with much faster than me and my brother did. They looked at me strange, and before they could ask questions I quickly said, "Come on, let's go check on the brothers. I have a feeling they already solved their problems and are now sparring." I went towards the direction where Al ran, and only Hughes and Winry followed me. We found out that they had gone to the roof, and when we opened the door we saw Ed and Al on the floor staring at the bright blue sky, smiling. "Hey Ed, get back into the hospital bed. We don't want you have to stay even longer because you opened your wounds," I yelled. They looked up and saw the three of us waiting for them. "You know, Mr. Hughes, I guess there are sometimes you have to speak with words to get your message across," Winry said, and Hughes smiled at her. "Yeah, I know." I looked at them a little bit confused, but I left it alone. I looked back at the boys and couldn't help but smile. These brothers could and would overcome anything that came their way. We finally came back to Ed hospital room, and Ed sent Winry off to buy some train tickets because they were going to, Dublith I think it's called, to meet with their teacher. Once she was out of the room, Hughes immediately started asking questions. "Okay, what happened to you, Edward, when you went inside the 5th laboratory?" Hughes asked. I looked at Ed accusingly. "You can't seem to stay out of trouble, can you, Ed? I'm going to take a wild guess and say that whoever you meet in there gave you the wounds, right?" I asked, and to my surprise he nodded. "Edward, tell me what happened," I growled. Hughes though looked a little uneasy. "Are you sure we should be?" "Don't worry, Hughes, she won't tell anyone. She knows how to keep a secret, not to mention I trust her," Ed said. Hughes didn't look convinced though. "I know, but," I cut him off this time. "I know I haven't been exactly the most trusting, especially with my suspicious past and my healing abilities, but rest assured I won't tell anyone about the Philosopher's Stone. Ed told me about his past and I will make sure that no one else will know about it. You can trust me, Maze," I told him. He stared at me for a moment before sighing. "All right, but you have to tell me a little about your past so I can trust you. It's hard to trust somebody with a mysterious past." I smiled at him and nodded. "No problem. Now Ed, tell us what happened." It took Ed about 20 minutes to tell us his story. He met another soul in an armor just like Al and had to fight him. Ed won, and the armor was going to tell him who ran that place when he said a mysterious lady came and stabbing his blood seal, killing him before he could tell anything. Ed also said there was another man with the lady and he was the one who punched him. From what he described and drew, which was done poorly, the male had long green hair, wearing a tank top with a skirt, and had a strange tattoo just below his thigh. And that's how it looked like, Ed said, putting up a picture of the tattoo for us to see. When I saw it I could help but gasp. It was the same one the mysterious lady at the train station had. It was a red dragon wrapping itself around a transmutation circle. "What's wrong, Miyuki?" Major Armstrong asked. "I saw that tattoo before," I whispered. "At the train station when you guys left me on the bench, there was this gorgeous black-haired lady standing there. She smiled at me before leaving and she had that tattoo on her chest," I explained, trying to make some connections. "What? No way. You mean they've been following us?" Ed cried. "It could be a possibility." "What did they call you, Ed? A special sacrifice? They must have been following you, making sure you stayed alive. But they obviously didn't want you to know about the Philosopher's Stone." I stumbled on the word, remembering how Ed told me they're made. I suppressed a shudder and continued on. "I have a good feeling that they were the ones behind the burning of the Central Library. We have to find more information about them," I said. "I find it hard to believe that the military was involved in something like this," I muttered. "Yeah, I know, but we can't go looking for more clues seeing that the 5th laboratory is now in rubbles," Hughes said, disappointed. There was an uncomfortable silence as we realized our important source of clues was now gone. "Well, it looks like we'll have to start from scratch," I said. "I'll go and look through the criminal list and see if this tattoo comes up in any of them," Hughes said. "And I'll investigate the subordinates of Dr. Marco and see what comes up," Major Armstrong said. Suddenly I heard the door opening, and when I turned around, I was face to face with King Bradley. By now, everyone had turned their head and their jaws dropped to the floor seeing who entered Ed's room. King Bradley, what are you doing here?" I asked, as none of the boys couldn't form any words. "Miyuki, I didn't think I would see you here. I thought you would still be in automail rehabilitation. Oh, by the way, nice haircut." He smiled at me. No, I just heal fast. And thank you," I stuttered out. He only gave me a hearty laugh. "That's good. I didn't want to lose a promising alchemist just yet. I'll make sure that you're still enlisted in the alchemist list so you don't have to go to East City to report to Mustang," he told me. Thank you," I said, "but it still doesn't answer my question. Why are you here?" I sheepishly asked. Why I'm here to drop off a get-well present to Edward here. Do you hate melons? He asked Edward, giving him a melon. Thank you, wait, that not what's wrong here. He cried. King Bradley only chuckled, but it soon turned serious. It seems that you've done a bit of investigating about the military, Major, he said. My eyes widened. Who the hell did he know that we were investing such thing? How did you? Don't take my intelligence work lightly, Major Armstrong. Now Edward Elric, about the Philosopher's Stone. King Bradley's voice began to darken, and for a moment I was actually scared. How much do you know about it? Depending on the situation, he cut off, sounding even more scarier that I started reaching for my kunai, preparing for a battle. We stayed still for a moment before King Bradley started laughing. Laughing? What the hell is wrong with him? I was kidding. You don't have to be so tense. He smiled. Say what? We all cried, confused. Don't worry, I also know about these disturbing movements within the military and I want to do something about it. He then went to grab the papers Major Armstrong held moments ago before speaking up again. However, all these men on the list who worked on the Philosopher's Stone, I've already investigated thoroughly, and they all went missing 5 days before the fifth laboratory was blown up. He said, dropping the bomb on us. It's like they're a few steps before us. I muttered. They burned the central library down, preventing us from finding Dr. Marcos' research notes, blow up the fifth laboratory so we can't look for clues inside there. I wouldn't be surprised if they already killed all the people on the list, including Dr. Marco. After all, in war sometimes information is more valuable than weapons. I said. So if you try to look into this more, you'll be likely to be killed, Hughes. I said. Am I correct, King Bradley? Unfortunately yes, you are, Miyuki. Lieutenant Colonel Hughes, Major Armstrong, Major Sabaku, and both of you Elric brothers, King Bradley said, with seriousness in his voice, that it felt as if I was being given a top-secret mission once again by Ba-chan. I have put my trust within you, so I order you, for the sake of your safety. We all stood still waiting for his order. I will not permit you to involve anyone else or speak of this to anyone. We still don't know who our enemies are and we can't trust everyone out there. So act as if you believe everyone in the military can't be trusted. He growled out, but when the time comes to confront the enemy, I hope all of you guys will join me. Yes, sir. Major Armstrong, Lieutenant Colonel Hughes and I saluted the Führer. He gave us a smile before heading off towards the window. He's not going to, is he? Well then, I must be going before my bodyguard finds me. After all, I did sneak away from work for a little privacy time. He said, opening the window, and to everyone's surprise but mine, jumped out the window. Goodbye, he said, walking away calmly as possible. Why do guys always have to use the windows to exit out of the hospitals? I groaned, remembering all the times Ero Sennin, Naruto, Kakashi-sensei, and even Obito used the windows to exit the hospital. Seriously, can't they use the frickin' door? It was made for a reason, you know. I growled out. Just then, the door opened once again and Winry stepped in, seeing the boys still looking out at the window. What just happened? She asked. There was a storm that just ran through here. Ed muttered, still looking shocked. Okay. Well, anyways, I bought the tickets you wanted me to get, she said, holding up an envelope. Oh really, thanks, Ed said, perking up. Tickets? Where you guys going? Hughes asked Ed. Well, we're going to Dublith to visit our teacher. We've been on a losing streak and we want to get better. Ed explained, but Al was shaking with terror. But I don't want to go, she'll kill us. He cried, and immediately Ed acted just as frightened. I know, Al, but we have to be brave. I actually sweat dropped at the scene before me. Was their teacher that scary? Who am I kidding? Women are always scary. That's why they make the best teachers. Where is Dublith anyways? Major Armstrong asked. It's down here, Al pointed on a map of Amestris. He pointed to a city on the map that would take at least a day to get if they didn't make any stops. Winry took one look at the map and started jumping up and down. Oh my god, there's Rush Valley, the haven for automail. Take me, take me, take me, she shouted. Go by yourself, Ed growled. Well, someone has to pay for my trip, she argued. And why do I have to do it? Ed glared back. Nissan, it's just on the way. It won't be any trouble. Al tried to reason with him and Ed actually agreed with him. Yay, let me go call Granny, Winry yelled as she rushed out the door to call Pinkano. Well, I haven't seen anyone get that happy to automail, I muttered. Yup, she'll make a good wife, Hughes said, patting Ed on his shoulder. Shut up, Ed yelled, but still turned bright red, and I chuckled at the scene. And you could make a good wife for Roy, Hughes said before my fist connected with his skull, sending him to dreamland. If any of you say that to me ever again, you'll end up like Hughes. I growled out and they all nodded furiously. Good, now if you'll excuse me I'm going to pack. I said. Wait, where are you going? Hughes asked, coming back to the world of the living. It seems that I didn't hit him hard enough. With the Elric brothers, of course. I stated. What, why? Ed shouted before shutting up when he saw my fist. Because of 3 reasons. 1, I still have to make sure you don't do anything crazy to open your wounds. 2, I don't want to go to East City to see that bastard, and finally I want to meet your teacher. Don't worry, I'll pay for my own ticket since there's only 3 in here. I lifted up the envelope when he left. So I'll meet you guys at the train station tomorrow at 9 a.m. okay? Oh, and Hughes, if you want you can come with me so I can tell you about my past if you're still interested. I said. Sure, I still have some time to kill. Well, I'll see you boys tomorrow. Hughes said, leaving with me. Once we were out of Ed's room, Hughes turned to me and asked. So what about your past? I only smirked at him. Tell me, what do you know about ninjas? Surprisingly, Hughes took my story very well and promised not to tell anyone. He even invited me to stay with his family for the night, but I had to refuse. So the next day we all met at the train station and Hughes, his family, and even Major Armstrong came to see us off. Take care, Ed, Al, Winry, and Miyuki. Garcia said. Don't worry, I'll make sure they stay out of trouble. I said, reassuring them. Suddenly I felt a pressure hugging my left leg, and when I looked down, I saw Alicia hugging me. Bye, Auntie Yuki. Come back soon. I smiled at her and gave her a hug. Don't worry, I will. Then I stood up and saluted both officers. Goodbye, Major Armstrong, Lieutenant Colonel Hughes, take care of yourself. Then I leaned closer to them and whispered, please do watch yourselves, I don't want any of you to get hurt. The enemy could be anywhere. They both nodded seriously, and to their surprise, I gave them a hug. Promise me you'll stay safe. Don't worry, I don't plan leaving my wife and daughter so soon. Hughes smiled at me. And likewise, Miyuki, I don't tend to leave the world anytime soon. Suddenly the train whistle rang, indicating it was time to board. Come on, Miyuki, it's time to leave. Ed shouted while climbing the train. Coming. Bye, you guys. I yelled as I ran to catch the leaving train. Bye. Come visit us when you come back to Central. Take care. Bye, Oni-chan, Auntie Miyuki. Bye, I whispered as I saw them getting smaller and smaller. Miyuki, over here, Winry called, poking her head out of one of the compartments. I get window seat, I called out, sitting close to the window before Ed could even blink. Hey, not fair. Not my problem. Now since this train ride's going to last for at least a day, I'm going to read. I said, taking out a scroll which had some alchemy notes in it along with some jutsus, and started reading. I was so absorbed in reading that I didn't know night came until Al shook me. Miyuki, it's around 11, you should get some rest. Al said. I looked around and I could see that Ed and Winry had already fallen asleep and I was the only one still awake. It's okay, I'm used to staying awake for days, one night without sleep isn't going to kill me. Besides, I don't want you to get lonely. I smiled at him, putting away my scroll. But. No buts, besides I get to ask some questions about you. I'll be fun. I'll even let you ask me questions about my life. I smiled at him. Are you sure? He asked hesitantly. Of course, but I'll need a drink. Excuse me, ma'am. I asked the train assistant that passed by. Yes, she asked sleepily. Can I have a cup of tea? Green tea preferably. I smiled at her. Sure, just in a moment. She came back a minute later with my hot tea, here you go. And left, probably to get some sleep. Now you can ask questions. Oh. I gasped. When I went to reach my cup, it cracked and a piece of it came off. The only time my glass ever cracked was when Gaara was kidnapped by the Akatsuki, Ero Sennin died, Pain attacked Konoha, my brother was almost kidnapped by Madara, and the most recently when Konoha was destroyed by the foreigners. Something bad had happened back in Central and there was nothing I could do. Oh, your cup cracked, don't worry, I can fix it. Al said, not noticing my worried mood. Oh yeah, hey Al, did they have phones on these trains? I asked. No, but they do have some at the train stations. When we get to Rush Valley you can use one, but why do you need it? He asked. I just have a bad feeling, that's all. I mumbled, so what question do you have for me? I asked, trying to change the subject. I can ask you anything, right? Yup, now ask, I cheerfully said. What was your first job as a ninja? He nervously asked. I smiled at him and told him of my first mission as a genin, catching Tora the cat. Even though I was smiling and laughing on the outside, I was really worried about Hughes and Major Armstrong on the inside. I couldn't help but feel that someone died. I really hope that I'm wrong for once. Don't kid yourself, when has your instincts failed you? Hopefully now. I argued with my reasonable side, but I couldn't help but agree, my instincts never been wrong before, why start now? Miyuki's paw. Do you think Winry will be alright? I asked the brothers as we boarded the train for Dublin. I mean, she's all alone now here in Rush Valley. Don't worry, she'll be alright. Ed sighed as he slouched down onto a seat. Yeah, I guess you're right, I mean after all she did help deliver a baby. I smiled at the memory. Flashback. Shit, what do we do, what do we do? I nearly screamed. When they realized that Mrs. Sadila was in labor, Mr. Dominic immediately went to get his coat and rode out into the storm to get a doctor. We had put Mrs. Sadila in bed and were now waiting for Mr. Dominic to arrive with a doctor. It was okay for a while until Mrs. Sadila started getting contractions that were about 3 minutes apart. The baby was coming out. You're a doctor, Ed shouted at me. Not a pregnancy doctor. I deal with surgeries, poisons, amputations, but not pregnancies. It's like asking a brain surgeon to do heart surgery. I shouted at him. Well, you were pregnant before, right? So you must know what to do. Al cried. I was in pain, crushing my husband's hand, yelling at my brother to stop panicking. Do you think I was paying attention to my surrounding? I yelled at them. Ah, Mrs. Sadila screamed. Shit, there's no time to wait for a doctor, we're going to have to deliver it ourselves. I sighed. Ehhhhhhh. They all screamed. Do you even have experience? Mr. Rydell asked. A little, but it'll have to do. Winry, you some medical experience, so you'll stay here with me to help deliver the baby. I ordered her. Yes. Ed, I'll get us some boiling water. I said, putting on Mrs. Sadila's apron and tying my hair back the best I could. Right, they both said, rushing out of the room. Pananya, get all the towels you can find. On it. Pananya rushed out of the room also. Okay, we might need some rubbing alcohol. Do you have any? I asked Mr. Rydell. It might be in the storage room. Winry, go and get some. Roger. And she ran as fast as her 2 legs could carry her to get the alcohol. In less than 5 minutes, everyone had brought in the stuff I had asked them to bring. Okay, thank you. Now Ed, Al. Stay outside, you shouldn't exactly be seeing this until you're married yet. Pananya, Winry, I'll need your assistance. Right, they said. Let's bring this baby into the world. I whispered, entering the room. Oh good God, it hurts so much, Mrs. Sadila shouted as her contractions hit her. You're doing good, just a few more pushes. Winry, can you wipe off the blood here? She nodded and did what I had told her. Okay Mrs. Sadila, just a couple more pushes and the pain will be gone. Okay, now push. Ahhhhhhhhhhh, she screamed. A little more, I can see the head. Winry, when the baby comes out, take it and wipe off the blood with warm water. Pananya, you help her too. Now push Mrs. Sadila, I told her. Aw, god damn it, she screamed in pain, but the baby was finally out. Clean him up, I told Winry as I passed the baby to her. Take out the mucus with this and clean off the blood as I heal Mrs. Sadila up. I panted. Who would have thought that delivering a baby could take so much out of you? Once Winry and Pananya had cleaned the baby, they had passed it back to his mother. They collapsed onto the floor. Well, Winry did. Pananya just rushed out of the room. I couldn't blame them. Seeing a baby being born isn't what teenagers should see at all. You okay, Winry? I asked her once I finished healing the newly mother Sadila up. I'm fine, she panted. Winry, is everything okay? Ed asked, running into the room with Al right behind him. Everything is perfectly well. I smiled at them. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to faint. And I did just that. End of flashback. Yeah, that was kind of funny seeing you faint. Ed snickered. I smacked him on the head. Well, you try being in my place. I would like to see how you would handled it. I growled. Suddenly I realized I had forgotten to use the phone at the train station to call Hughes to see if everything was alright in Central. Shit, I didn't even get to use the phone. Shit, I grumbled. Well, you can use the phone at Dublin. Al suggested. I guess so. So how many more hours until we reach Dublin? I asked. 5 more hours, I think. Ed mumbled. 5 more hours until our death. He whimpered. I don't want to die, Nissan. Al cried, holding his brother. I don't think your teacher will actually kill you. I tried to reassure them, but it was in vain as the brothers continued to cry. Well, at least I tried. I muttered. Once the 5 hours were up, I actually had to drag them both off of the train, making me unable to use the phone again. Seeing that they were too chicken to face their teacher. Come on already. Stop acting like babies and knock on the door already. I growled at them once we reached the supposed home of their teacher. I was actually amazed that she worked in a butcher shop, maybe that's why the brothers were so scared of her. But we're scared, they cried. Fine, I'll go knock. I grumbled, but before I could take a step, we heard footsteps echoing behind the door. Slowly the door of the butcher shop opened and we saw a knife covered in blood come out first, and then a huge bulky man came out of the doorway. And when I say huge, I mean huge. He looked down at us and I said in a bit of a shaky voice. Hello. I'm Miyuki. Who are you? Sig. He then turned towards the boy who had stepped back a bit. Nice to see you again, Edward, you've gotten bigger. And he ruffled his hair quite painfully if Ed's face was any indication. Hello, it's me, Alphonse. Al greeted the man. He stopped ruffling Ed's hair and inspected Al. He then patted his head. Hello Alphonse, it seems you've really gotten bigger. It seems he didn't know about Al's soul being transmuted into the armor. He then went towards an open window at the side of the shop and called out for a woman named Izumi. It seems teacher still isn't feeling that well. Al said. Is your teacher sick? I asked. Maybe I can see what's wrong with her, and I didn't get to finish my sentence as the door behind me flew open. Quickly I turned around only to dodge a foot aimed for Edward and hit him square in the face. The kick the person delivered sent Ed all the way across the street. Ni-san. Al cried before shutting up as a woman came out of the shop with a huge amount of killer intent aimed at Edward. What is this? I heard that you've become a dog of the military. I thought I trained my students better than that. I think it would be wise for me not to say that I'm a state alchemist while I'm around her if I value my life. She then slowly turned around and looked Al straight in the eye. You hi teacher. You see Al tried to come up with an excuse but was slowly failing, however his teacher looked at Al with a little bit of shock. Al, is that you? You've grown so much. Al, seeing that she wasn't glaring at him, sighed in relief. Thanks teacher. You haven't changed either. Before Al could finish his sentence, she grabbed Al's armored arm and threw him over her shoulder and onto the ground. If I wasn't scared for the brothers' well-being I would have admired her strength. Not many people can lift a 7-foot armor man, let alone throw. I thought you weren't feeling that well. Ed said, coming to his brother's side. Forget about that. I'm only out of bed because I heard you guys were here, and, to my surprise, she spit out at least a pint of blood. Are you okay? I asked, rushing to her side. I'm fine, she gasped out. You shouldn't overwork yourself. Sig said, helping her. You were worried for me. Thank you dear, she said, and in the background, you could see hearts flying everywhere. It was likely in Guy's genjutsu, you couldn't seem to get rid of it no matter how hard you try. Well, come inside, it's rude having guests staying outside, she said. Well, my first impression of her, she's bipolar. I muttered, stepping into the house. Yeah, she kind of is. Al whispered. And who are you? Izumi asked me once we entered the kitchen. Now that she wasn't trying to kill the boys, I got a good look at her. She had pitch black hair that was put into a ponytail, but you could see the dreadlocks. She had the same sharp black eyes as Roy and Sasuke but had a more feminine side to it. She looked to be around her mid-30s, maybe late 40s. Her body was well-toned but still looked feminine. Izumi wore a white tank top trench coat that went down to her knees, and under it she wore black pants that went to her shins, and she wore the same style of sandals I wore. Might as well as get over it, Miyuki Uzumaki Namikaze Sabaku, also known as the Whirlwind Alchemist. I said. State alchemist? She looked at the boys accusingly. Why do you have a state alchemist following you around? It's not like that, I'm just tagging along. I said, since we're both looking for the same thing. Same thing? And what is this item you're looking for? She asked, sitting down, motioning the rest of us to do the same. Well, Edward began, we're looking for the Philosopher's Stone and we were wondering if you knew anything about it. No, I was never interested in such things, so I didn't bother to research about it. What about that alchemist we met in Central? Sig said, he knew a lot about the Philosopher's Stone, right? Really? We all cried in happiness. Who was this person? I think his name was Hohenheim. Izumi stated. I slammed my head to the table. If I had known that he knew about the Philosopher's Stone, I could have been out of here a long time ago. Damn that bastard, next time I see him he's a dead man. The boys each had different expressions. Al sounded and looked a bit excited at the mention of his name, while Ed glared at Izumi for saying that name as if it was taboo. So that bastard's still alive. Ed growled, clenching his fists. Bastard, so you know him? She asked. Well, you see, he's our father. Al explained, while Izumi looked a bit shocked at the news. You mean he's the one who left you? I looked up. Hohenheim left them, I thought. Well, it seems that everything isn't at all what it seems. I wonder why Hohenheim left them when they were so young, especially when their mother was sick. Could it be that he didn't know at the time? That bastard, he's the reason why Mom died. Ed hissed. It was silent for about a minute before Al decided to break it. Did Dad say anything about the stone? I can't remember, but he said something about almost fulfilling his long-time dream. He looked really happy. She then stood up and punched Ed in the head just like Sakura used to do to my brother, except Ed wasn't knocked unconscious. Stop acting so gloomy and let's eat. You're welcome to join us, Miyuki. She said, going to get dinner. This is a wonderful dinner, Mrs. Izumi. I said, taking another bit from my steak. It's been a while since I had one of these. That last time I had one was when I was .26. Well, anyways, it was good eating steak once again. Thank you, Miyuki. Al, Izumi asked, turning towards him, why aren't you eating? Well, you see, I had a big lunch on the train. Al panicky said. Hey Al, Ed said, trying to avert the subject from him, tell teacher about how we saw a woman give birth. Oh yeah, we went to Rush Valley before coming here and helped a woman give birth. Al cried happily. Well, if your helping is screaming your lungs off and panicking, then I say you did a great job in helping. I smirked. Whatever. But still, it was amazing. Ed shouted. Yeah, and since we all helped, the mother was saved too. The child was really blessed. Al said. That's right, you guys were born exactly like that too. Izumi gave a small smile. That's why you must treasure your lives. Izumi said, a little sad. Well, off to bed all of you, you must be tired. I hope you don't mind sharing a room with the boys, Miyuki, we only have one extra bedroom. She said, showing us a room. It's fine, I'm used to sharing a room with boys. I smiled at her generosity. Okay then, I'll see you all in the morning. Good night boys, Miyuki. And she closed the door. Well, I must say I like your teacher. She's really something, I said, taking my jacket and laying down on the bed closest to the window. Yeah, she's awesome. Al smiled. How did you guys even meet? Riesenbuhl is pretty far from here. I asked. She was traveling with Sig and they just happened to come across Riesenbuhl and helped to stop a river overflow with alchemy. We asked her if she could be our teacher and reluctantly she agreed, but we had to pass a test first before she would teach us. Ed said, retelling the story. Test? What kind of test? I asked. She left us on an island to survive for a month and we couldn't use alchemy. They both said. Really? That's pretty nice of her to do that. I muttered, but apparently, the boys heard me. Nice, nice. We thought we were going to die. They shouted at me. Sorry, I forgot we don't exactly have the same definition when it comes to tests. I apologized. What tests did you have to take? Al asked. Well, there were a number of tests I took. There was the Genin test, we just had to work together with our team to fight off our sensei. That was pretty easy compared to the other tests we took. There's the Chunin exams, that was a test you had to use everything you knew just to survive, otherwise you would die literally. How old were you when you took that test? Ed asked. If I remember correctly, 13 I think. I still have nightmares about it. I shuddered remembering the test. It wasn't called the Forest of Death for nothing. Ed and Al gulped. It was really called that. Yup, and there was a lot of creatures there that could kill you in a second if you let your guard down. I remember barely escaping a 10-foot tiger. 1-10 feet. What did they feed those animals? Ed cried. I asked myself the same question too, but I never found out. Now go to sleep, Ed, it's late and you shouldn't stay up this long. But. Sleep now, I ordered him, adding a bit of killer intent. Quickly he jumped onto his bed and closed his eyes. I chuckled at him once he finally fell asleep moments later and started snoring. Night, Edward, sleep tight. And I smoothed away the hair on his forehead, caressing him on the head as I would to my own child. I then turned to Al and asked, do you want me to stay up with you, so you won't get lonely? No, it's fine, you need your rest, I'll be okay. Just sleep, Miyuki. Fine, but I might not be so persuaded next time. I smiled at him before going into my bed and let the soundtrack of the night lure me to sleep. Teacher has seen it, I heard Ed's voice as I began to stir from my slumber. Slowly I opened my eyes and looked at Edward. Seen what, Ed? It's too early to begin telling riddles. I groaned, getting up from my warm bed. She's seen the truth. I looked up and stared at him. What makes you say that? Al, remember how she could perform alchemy without circles? Ed asked. Yes, she said we would only achieve it if we've seen the truth. Teacher performed human transmutation, Al said in shock. Well, there's one way to know for sure, ask her. I yawned. That's suicide, they cried. Well, you got any better ideas? I asked them. They stayed silent, looked at each other before sighing. Fine, we'll go and ask her. They grumbled, exiting out of the room. Well, I guess I should go with them to make sure they don't get hurt too badly. I muttered aloud as I went to go and put my jacket on and followed the brothers outside where they were with their teacher. So what is it that you wanted to ask me? She said, not turning around and facing them. Well, you see, Ed was trying to come up with a way to ask her but was hopelessly failing. Not waiting for her student's response, she clapped her hands and out of her brick wall she created a spear. She turned around and swung at Ed. Ed quickly ducked and dodged the rest of her incoming attacks. Izumi gave a kick towards his head and Ed barely had dodged it. As Izumi continued her attack on Ed, he kept on dodging, but when she aimed the spear at his head he probably on instinct transmuted his automail arm into a blade and cut the spear, which landed an inch before me. I see, Izumi said, lowering her weapon, it's just as I thought, you can transmute things without a transmutation circle. Not to mention that Al is just an empty suit of armor and you have an automail leg and arm. She pointed out and the bothers gasped out in surprise. How did you know, teacher? Ed asked. I can just tell just by sparring with you. She growled, but then in a softer voice she said, you saw it, didn't you? When Ed didn't answer right away she screamed in his face, you did, didn't you? Why yes, I did, he whimpered, scared for his life. It's sad, she whispered, both master and student made the same stupid decision. So you also performed human transmutation too? That would make sense, since you can transmute without circles like Ed. I said, coming up to them. What about you? I don't see any transmutation circles on you and most state alchemists have them with them all the time. Izumi said, looking me dead in the eye. Ah well, about that, yeah I did. I mumbled, looking down to the floor. What's with teachers and their stares that can make you feel guilty in less than a second? Is that why you lost your leg? No, I lost my leg in a fight a month and 1/2 ago, instead I lost something more precious to me, and I clenched the coat around my heart hard. Ed lost his arm, you lost some of your organs, I believe that's why you keep coughing up blood, correct? They both nodded. Well, I lost my family. You see, I'm not from here, so when I was forced to do human transmutation to save my brother, Truth decided to have fun and sent me here with no hopes of returning home. I whispered sadly. That would explain many things, like how you walk, it's like an assassin, always ready to attack, looking at your sounding constantly, and not to mention the type of clothes you wear. Izumi chuckled at my outfit. I could say the same thing. I semi-growled at her but smiled. But why did you perform human transmutation, teacher? Al asked. At first Izumi didn't answer, but then she sighed. Let's continue this inside, there's too many ears and eyes watching us here. We all nodded and went back into the house. From there she told us her story about her transmutation. She and her husband Sig wanted to have a child so badly, but they were having a hard time conceiving one. When Izumi did get pregnant, she fell ill and killed the baby. She tried to bring it back to life with alchemy, but the result, she lost some of her organs in her lower body and spit up blood every time she overworked herself. I was an idiot, she said sadly. You weren't an idiot, you were just a mother who wanted her child back. I whispered and they all looked at me strangely. It still doesn't matter, I'm an idiot for making that decision. She replied hastily. Well, if I was in your place I would have done the same thing. Losing your child isn't something anyone should go through. I shouted, standing up, knocking over my chair, it's painful, heartbreaking, it's like you lost a piece of yourself. I whispered at the end, trying to hold back the tears. Even though I haven't lost any of my children yet, it feels exactly like that when Truth took me away from them. There barely ate, goddamn it. I choked out. Ed gave an awkward pat on the shoulder and I gave him a sad smile. Thanks, I whispered. I see. Izumi muttered, it must have been hard for all of you, when you saw Truth, correct? Ed clutched his automail arm tightly and I did the same to my coat. Even though it was tough, it was our decision to perform the taboo, especially when I could have found another way to save my brother instead of doing human transmutation. We would now have to live with our decision and deal with it. It's okay, after all we did this to ourselves. We said at the same time. Besides, it's not like we think it's tough, Ed began. It's just anticipation, like how I think about all the food I'm going to eat when I get my body back. Al said happily. And I'm thinking of all the things I'll do with my family once I return home. I smiled at her. Morons, the lot of you, she said, giving Ed and Al a hug and a small smile to me. You don't have to push yourselves. Hugging the brothers tighter. But the thing is, I've always pushed myself. It's hard not to when you have to rely on your own for a long time. I thought sadly, but my reasonable side had to agree with her. Now I would have to learn how to rely on other people if I wanted to get home. Ed however started to tear up and he hugged her tighter. Forgive us. Ed stuttered out. We're sorry. Al cried. And they stayed like that, repeating their words over and over again, hugging their teacher. You know what? I asked the brothers as we waited on the hard cold bench at the train station. I still have no clue to why we are sitting here waiting for a train. Well, if you didn't hear, our teacher expelled us. Ed shouted, making me wince. No duh. I heard that part. I was actually surprised when she said that. I wouldn't have thought for a moment that she would expel them. Can you even expel your own student? But I think you should have asked her more details than running away. Maybe she meant that you are now her equals. Well, I don't think so. Expel is expel. There's nothing changing that. Ed growled and I sighed in defeat. Sometimes Edward was just too stubborn sometimes. Suddenly I felt a chakra presence coming towards us and I realized that it was none other than Sig. Ah, hello Sig, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be with Izumi? I asked once he came closer. Hello Miyuki. I'm here to see you guys off. Then he turned to the brothers and said, if you ever visit Doublet again, don't hesitate to visit us. But, idiots, he shouted, interrupting Al. You are no longer her student, you are now her equals. That's what she meant when she said she was expelling you. He sighed. Told you, I whispered to Ed. Damn it, he shouted, slapping himself in the face, we still haven't done what we came here to do. Come on Al, Miyuki, we're heading back there right now. He yelled, running off the platform. Wait, I still need to make, ah damn it, come on Al, let's go before your brother gets beaten to a pulp by your teacher. I grumbled, running after Edward. Right, coming. With the speed Edward was going, we made it back to the house in about 5 minutes when it would have normally taken about 10. The front door was open and I assumed he already went in and would try to confront his teacher. Ah, we heard Edward scream, but it was overpowered by another, much more scarier voice. What the hell are doing back here? And why are you calling me teacher when I don't teach? Pathetic excuses for students like you. She hissed. For a moment, I was actually debating whether I should run and leave Ed alone to face the wrath of Izumi. Teacher, Ed shouted, kneeling down in front of her along with Al, we came here to find a way to get our bodies back to normal and we won't leave until you help us. Get out. We're staying. Get out. No, we're staying. They argued, going back and forth, none of them admitting defeat. Izumi just let them stay. Ed here is stubborn as 1,000 mules put together. If he doesn't get your help, he'll find another person to help him. I sighed, I was getting fed up with their yelling. Very well, she sighed, come to the living room, we have much to talk about. Thank you, we said, following her. Al, I'm going to guess you didn't see the truth, correct? Izumi asked. Ah well no, Al gloomily said. Understandable. I mean, when you see truth it overloads your brain and you go into a shock for a moment. You probably lost your memory due to an overload of information. I mused. Well, first thing is first, we need to get Al's memory back. Izumi said. Since he lost all of his body, think of all the things he must have seen. Yeah, we only lost part of our bodies and saw only a portion of the truth. Think how much Al saw. Ed replied. But wait, I didn't pay any body parts, so technically I shouldn't have seen truth, but yet I did. It's probably because you came from a different world, right? I nodded, so maybe the rules don't exactly apply to you the way it applies to us. Izumi said, but she still sounded uncertain. Who knows, but either way I think since Al paid the most he probably knows more than all of us combined. He would probably even know how to find their bodies back and maybe a way home for me. I said, finally realizing what Al held. But remembering that thing Izumi stopped talking. Is it really that bad? Al asked, now terrified of seeing truth. No, it's like awful, she said, going into a teasing mode, but had a serious tone to it. Yeah, Ed now joining on the fun, it's horrifying. It can drive you insane. Or even leave you brain dead. They both muttered. Is it really true, Miyuki? Al asked in a tiny scared voice. Well, I began, I think it's a bit terrifying because you learn the truth about things you never knew or thought you knew about. It could drive you insane if you think too much about it and don't let it flow into your head. It's an experience I think that no one should ever go through though. Even I wouldn't wish Mondra to see it. I mumbled at the end. If it has the chance of helping getting our bodies back and to help you go home, then I'll do it. Al determinedly said. All was still for a moment before Izumi spoke up. Alright, I have an acquaintance that might be able to retrieve your memory for you. Really? Thank you, teacher. They cried before dodging a knife thrown at them. I'm not your teacher. Sorry. Well, before we meet my acquaintance, let's go and eat some dinner. Are you coming, Miyuki? Izumi asked. Oh, I'll be right there, I need to check something out first. I smiled. Very well, we'll be in the kitchen, come on boys. And they left me in the living room. Now you might be thinking, what am I doing in the room? Well, ever since we entered the room, I could sense a chakra presence outside of Izumi's house. More specifically on top of her roof near the window. Before I thought it was an animal since it had the chakra of one, but with closer inspection I realized it was a person whose chakra was somehow combined with a lizard-type creature. It was almost like Nina's when Mr. Tucker transformed her into a chimera. Now, I said, going towards the window, and I could sense the person's chakra flare up in anticipation. Didn't your mother, I took out my kunai, teach you it isn't nice to spy on people. And with great speed, I shot out to the window, opened it, and threw the kunai at the unsuspecting person. Luckily, for him he only got a scratch. How did you know? I could sense you. You really need to work on your spying skills. I growled, getting another kunai out. Now tell me, what were you doing here, and if you don't tell me the truth I might decide to kill you right here and now. I had gotten out of the house right now and I was calmly walking up the wall of the house to where he was nursing his wounded arm. He looked to his left and right trying to find a way out. Sigh, I see, it looks like we're going to do this the hard way. I sighed, throwing the kunai at him and clapped my hands together. Shit, he cursed, dodging my kunai but instead got caught in my vortex I created. Now tell me, what were you up? I never got the chance to finish. Apparently I wasn't putting enough chakra into my automale leg and I slipped of the wall, losing my concentration, setting him free of the vortex. I fell a couple of feet before regaining my position, and by the time I looked up, he was already gone, and Ed was calling for me. If Ed didn't find me in the living room it might make them worried. It seems like I'll have to look for that man later. Damn, I muttered, jumping back into the house. He got away. But why was he spying on us? Seriously, I grumbled, why do I have to help Broom? I'd rather be in the kitchen helping cutting meat. Here I was sweeping the dirt in front of Izumi's house shop along with Al. It's not that bad, Miyuki. Hey, what's this? Al asked when a ball of crumpled paper landed in front of him. What does it say? I asked, coming up to him. We know your secret, meet us at the Devil's Nest if you want to talk. Al whispered. Secret, you don't mean? They probably know about Ni-san performing human transmutation. I'm going to go, Al said, dropping his broom, and was about ready to leave when I grabbed his helmet hair. Alone? No way in hell am I letting a 14-year-old boy face a group of people alone. I'm going with you. Now where's the Devil's Nest? Excuse me, ma'am, I shouted. So now here we are heading to the Devil's Nest without no backup, and now that I realize it, I never even told Ed or Izumi. Shit, we're screwed when they find us. Are you sure this is the way? I asked Al once we started getting into the part of town that didn't look very friendly. That's what the lady said. Suddenly I saw 3 people waiting in front of what looked like a bar, and I could instantly remember one of the people's chakra. It was the same one as last night. Al, it looks like we're here, I muttered. Once we got closer, I saw that there was one blonde girl with a bunch of tattoos all over her body, and she looked really slender and flexible. When I checked her chakra, it was mixed with one of a snake. The man next to her had black spiky hair, a sword visible for everyone to see, and his chakra was mixed with a dog or wolf, I couldn't tell. Finally, there was a bald man in rags, in other words the same man I encountered last night. Were these people chimeras too? So were you the one who sent the letter? Al asked. Yes, the swordsman said, coming up to us. We know a lot about you. Really, that's good because there's not much I know about myself. Al said. Then I'm the guy you want to talk to. Why don't you come with us? PSSH, you really think that we're going to come with you? You're already suspicious enough, not to mention that guy, I pointed to the baldy, was spying on us last night. What makes you even trustworthy? I growled. But we can tell you all you need to know. He argued, growling a bit like a canine. Fine, I sighed and he relaxed. I looked at Al and he nodded. When the swordsman was least expecting it, Al kicked him hard in the face, making him crash into the ally wall. Nice kick, Al, I commented. Thanks. Now why should I come with you when we can make you tell us instead? Al asked the now bruised man. So, he said, slowly getting up, you want to do this by force then, huh? Quickly he jumped to his feet, getting out his sword, but before he could even unleash it, I punched him with chakra behind it in the face, probably breaking a couple of bones. Unfortunately, he managed to strike me in the shoulder with his sword. I hissed in pain as he sliced down my arm. Miyuki, Al cried. I tried to slice back at him with my own kunai, but the blonde-haired woman came up behind me and wrapped her arms around me, squeezing me like a boa constrictor. Now stop struggling if you don't want me to break your bones. She growled in my ear. Like that's going to stop me. I snarled, slamming her into one of the walls, hoping to make her loosen her hold on me. Instead, she tightens her grip on me. Let Miyuki go, Al cried, running to my aid. He didn't notice the gray-haired, almost 7 feet man, standing behind him. Al, behind you, I cried. He turned around, but it was too late. The man had already grabbed him and pushed him to the floor, pulling his right arm up, preventing him from getting up. Al, damn it, let me go. I struggled even harder against the blonde, but to no avail. You're making much harder than it has to be, kid. The dog man sighed, getting up while trying to stop the bleeding from his nose. I had to smirk a little. It left good breaking someone's nose again. You're not human, are you? I gasped out. Bingo, they're chimeras, a new voice said. And they happen to work for me. I turned my head around to see the new incomer. He had black leather pants, a dark brown skin-tight muscle shirt, and over it, a black jacket almost like mine, except it had fur around the collar. He had black spiky hair, and concealing his eyes, he had sunglasses almost like scars. He gave us a predatory grin, and something told me we were in some deep shit. Huh, well, what do you know, you're actually Hallow. The leader said, looking down in Al's armor. The blonde girl who was holding me before was now inside of Al, keeping him from moving. I, on the other hand, am tied to a chair with the swordsman and the big gray-haired man standing next to me watching me. So who are you? I asked, glaring at the man. He turned around and smirked at me. The name is Greed, and I want to be your guy's friend, well, maybe a little more than friends with you. He gave me a lust-filled stare. Hell no, what do you people want with us? I snarled at him, just who are you? Yeah, you can't be chimeras, no one has ever succeeded in making a chimeras talk. Al said. Well, you can't believe everything the military tells you, kid. The girl inside you is actually part snake. I knew it. And the big guy next to Honey is mixed with, he turned to the big guy and asked. What were you mixed with again, a cow? Yes, he said, and I had to suppress a snicker, really, a cow? Couldn't they come up with something better? We even have a lizard, a crocodile, and the guy you took down earlier, Honey, is mixed with a dog, so he pees with his leg up. Hey, that was only once. The swordsman cried. So you're part dog? Al asked. Yes, and it's not so bad, he smirked, getting over his embarrassment quickly. But is this even possible? The only known chimera creator was Sho Tucker. And even he wasn't able to create one that could talk. I growled out, who could create such successful chimera? The military. Greed said. Wait, what? Al and I asked the same time. That's right, the military does this right under your noses, creating things that aren't even possible and keeping it a secret from the public. I'm even more different than they are. He raised his left hand and showed us the tattoo Ed saw days before. I'm a homunculus. A homunculus. Al stuttered. Exactly, you know what that means, right? I'm an artificially made human. Begin. You're lying. Al shouted, a homunculus isn't real. It's only a theory. No one has ever made one. Greed sighed, well, it looks like I'm going to have to prove you wrong. Suddenly the cow man took out his mallet and swung it around, decapitating Greed's head. Blood splashed all over me as I took in the sight. Why did you kill him? Al asked. Suddenly I felt his chakra spike, and I wanted to slap myself in the face for not noticing his chakra signature before. It was exactly like the woman at the train station. They both had millions of chakra signature inside of them, but what happened next shocked me to the very core. Flashes of red lighting surrounded his head, repairing what the mallet destroyed, and I could sense that one of the chakra signatures disappeared as it went to heal him. You could say it was like how Kyuubi would send its chakra into Naruto to help him heal his wounds, but instead of residing back into the seal, this chakra disappeared, like if he used up that person's life just to heal himself. If that was so, then that meant he was somewhat immortal. Slowly I could see him growing bones, muscles, blood vessels, and even cartilage. Before I even knew it, there was Greed standing before us unharmed. He cracked his neck, adjusting it back into place, and smiled at us. That's one time I died. No way. Al mumbled, not able to believe what he saw. Yes way, you guys shouldn't believe that anything isn't impossible. Although I'm a little surprised that you're having a hard time accepting that. Greed said to Al, especially since you're just a soul in a suite of armor. So the lizard man told you, huh? Is that why you kidnapped us? He walked up to me and grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Well, aren't you a smart girl? I would love to have you on my team. Like hell I will ever join you. I growled at him and even tried to bit him. Feisty, I like it. He smirked at me before turning to Al. Well, enough chit-chat. What I want to know is how it feels to have a body that doesn't need to eat, sleep, or ever die. The body you have sounds like immortality to me and I want that. You sure are greedy, I mumbled. That's exactly why I'm greed. You see, I want everything you can think of. I want money, I want power, I want women. He once again looked at me with lustful eyes and I had to turn away. I want eternal glory, I want the finer things in life, and I of course crave for eternal life. Well, aren't you already immortal with the body you have already? Al asked. In a sense, yes, but I will die eventually. Now that I told you my secrets, tell me, how did you get your body? Greed demanded Al. I wish I could tell you, because that would mean I would remember how I got into this body, but I didn't do the transmutation. Well, then we'll just have to ask the person who. I did. I spoke up. I transmuted Al's soul into the armor. I glared at Greed. Miyuki. No, she. Who are you going to listen to, a kid who doesn't have any of his memories regarding his transmutation or me? Greed smirked. I'm starting to like you more every minute, Greed said, coming up to me. Now care to tell me how you did it? I smirked. I'll even perform it, if you let Al go. Miyuki. Don't mean, Greed just laughed though. Ha 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 ha, you really think I'm that stupid? If I let him go you'll just try to escape or kill me. Well, it was worth a shot, besides I think we're still going to get out of here anyways. I smiled at him. What makes you say that? He asked, suddenly curious. You'll see in 3, 2, 1, the door smashed open and out came a very bruised lizard man followed by a very pissed off Ed. Hey Ed, nice to see that you found us. I said, smiling at the work he did on the lizard man. Ni-san, this guy's a homunculus, Al cried. Even though Ed deserved to know who Greed was, it's not exactly the best thing to yell out, especially when there's hostages involved. What, no way, Ed said in disbelief. Hey. We might even be able to get some leads on him on how to get our bodies back. Al said, cutting Greed off. To prove Al's point, Greed showed Ed his hand. That's an Ouroboros tattoo. Correct, but here I was hoping to deal only with the armor giant and that girl over there. Pointing at me and sighing. Why you just ask your friends for the help instead? I'm pretty sure they'd be more than happy to help. Ed growled. Friends? He asked. Yeah, the other homunculus in the 5th laboratory. They had a couple of armor-bonded souls with them. You don't say, but long story short, we don't talk to each other anymore. He said. You probably pissed them off with your greedy attitude. I mumbled. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. Greed growled at me. So how about we make a deal? Since you're so desperate to get your bodies back, I'll teach you how to get your bodies back using a homunculus way. But what's the catch? I asked. All you have to do is teach me how to transmute a soul into an armor, honey. He said, smiling at me. Wait, you know how to transmute a soul? Ed asked before I could make a face to say no. Greed then suspiciously looked at me. Do you, or do you not know how to make a soul? He growled, pissed off. I could have been exaggerating a bit. Suddenly he grabbed me by the neck and started to choke me. Miyuki, the brothers shouted. You know I hate when people lie to me. And started to squeeze my windpipe tighter, making me see black spots. Be bad, have bit, I gasped out. While he was busy glaring at me, I had created a clone hidden behind Al, and I was ready to switch places with her if things got out of hand, and they did when Greed crushed my windpipe. Now I only had seconds to get out of my ropes, try to free Al, before Greed would notice that I wasn't dead. I heard the familiar poof sound and cursed my clone for not being able to stay alive longer. I had only gotten the ropes off of me. Damn it, where is she? Greed shouted, pissed off. She's still in the room, I can still smell her. The swordsman said. But what the heck was that? She just disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Greed growled. Carefully I peered out behind of Al's armor and saw Ed's shocked look. I guess he still wasn't used to the whole clone thing just yet. In front of him there was Greed pacing back and forth, glaring where I used to be. This was my chance to kill him. Well, try to. Quietly I got out my kunai and waited for the perfect time to attack. Suddenly he stopped and turned to face Al, but I could tell he knew I was behind him. I see you. He grinned at me. Now. Quickly I came out behind from Al's armor, covered my kunai with wind chakra and sliced at his head. He had fast reflexes though, and I only cut part of his hair off. Well, isn't this a surprise? Would you mind telling me what you did just moments ago? Greed grinned. Ninjutsu, and that's all I'm going to tell you since you'll die before I can tell you more. I growled at him, taking a fighting stance. Greed laughed at me though. It looks like we're going to have a good fight for once. Roa, take the armor kid out of here, we still need him. Greed said, also taking up a fighting stance. No, Ed cried as we saw the Oxman carry Al out of here. Ed, go after him, I'll take care of. Before I could even finish my sentence I saw Ed charging at Greed with his automail knife, trying to stab past him. Greed just stuck out his hand as if he was going to take the stab. What surprised me though that his hand turned in a dark gray color and when Ed's automail connected with it, it just stopped. Ed didn't stop there and continue attacking Greed, but his attempts were useless as Greed either dodged them or covered his skin with that hard substance. Nice try kid, but even that sword of yours can't even penetrate my ultimate shield. Greed taunted him. Really? I said coming up from behind him, I beg to differ. And I punched him as hard as I could causing him to take a couple of steps forward. Damn it, I growled as I saw that he had his back also covered in that substance. Nice punch you have, Greed groaned, not many people can make me stagger like that. Suddenly he turned on me and started attacking with his claw-like hands. But it's not going to be enough to save you. Now Ed, I shouted as I saw Edward come up behind Greed and put his legs between his head and crushed his neck. Next time try to protect your head. Ed shouted thinking he won, but his victory was short-lived, as he had to step back from Greed's attack. He wasn't fast enough and Greed managed to land a blow on him. It's not over yet Ed, he can regenerate his body so we're going to have to kill him a lot more times before he actually dies. I growled as I saw Greed coming back up from Ed's attack. There's no way you can actually beat me, especially with my ultimate shield and my super fast healing abilities, so why don't you take the deal? Greed sighed. We didn't speak but instead we glared at him as hard as we could. Oh I see you're those kinds of people that don't care that if you're the one hurt but if someone touches your family member you completely freak out. You got that right bastard, so you better take us seriously or otherwise you might die much faster. I snarled at him. Ha 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 that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Greed laughed as he wiped a tear away. But I guess I should get this over with, he said taking off his jacket and I could see his shield spreading all over his body. I don't really like using this form seeing that it covers my handsome face, I had to snort at that but it can't be helped. So try all you want but you'll never be able to get past my ultimate shield. He growled. When I saw his true form, that's when I realized that we would be having a bit more trouble trying to kill him. I hate when people use ultimate to describe their defenses, I growled clapping my hands together on the floor and creating a sword. After all they're all the same, it's just a little more harder to penetrate through. And I charged at him swing my sword in a downwards motion hoping to cut him with my sword. Greed only laughed. Didn't you learn from the brat? Nothing can penetrate through his shield even his sword couldn't make a dent. He taunted me. Well then how about ninjutsu? I asked swinging my sword down again but this time added my wind chakra into it. He didn't even move probably thinking that it wouldn't affect him. Boy was he in a big surprise. It went well for a while, and when I mean a while, I mean for only 5 minutes. Sure, my chakra sword managed to slice through his shield and I even managed to cut his arm off, but he somehow managed to make his shield even stronger and made my attack useless. Even my alchemy attacks didn't have much effect on him as it only pushed him away from made him crash into the wall for a couple of seconds before coming back at us again. Even with my chakra enhanced punches, we weren't doing much damage as I hoped we would. How are you, holding, Ed? I gasped out as I clutched my side. Greed had managed to break some of my ribs with his kicks and my body was slowly healing them. Ed however was in much worse condition than I was. His automail was almost broken, he had multiple slashes over his body and if I didn't heal him soon he might pass out from the loss of blood. When Ed didn't answer I quickly created a clone to help heal him as I tried to keep Greed away from them. Well, it seems that you're all talk but you can't back it up. Greed chuckled, taking a couple of steps forward. Quickly, ignoring the pain in my ribs, I charged at him and tried to make him back up but it was useless. He dodged my first punch and grabbed my leg when I tried to do a roundhouse kick at him. He lifted me up and threw me across the room. I landed on my feet but before I could regain my stance, he came at me and kicked me hard in the stomach making me cough up blood. Then he grabbed my hair and forced me to look at him. I'll ask you one more time, do we have a deal or am I going to have to kill you? Greed sighed. I only glared at him. Fine, do you have any last words? He asked as he raised his right clawed hand. It seems I have run out of options, I'm going to have to use it. Who knows, it might actually work. Just two. I smiled as I channeled my chakra into my eyes, Diva Path. I shouted activating my bloodline. His eyes widened in shock as I forced him to let go of my hair and made him flying into the wall across from me. Well that went well. Ed are you okay? I asked limping towards him deactivating the Rinnegan. Behind you, he shouted. I never even saw it coming as I felt greed grab my head and threw me at Edward, successfully dispelling my clone and making me crash into the semi-healed Edward. Well, that was a surprise. I didn't even know you had a trick up your sleeve, but it ends here. Greed growled, making his way towards us. I tried to sit up, but I had too many broken bones to even breathe properly. Instead of going for me, he grabbed Edward by the collar, lifting him up. Edward, I cried. So you ready to die, kid? He asked. Thanks for toying with us. Ed gasped out. I had to blink a couple of times. Did I hear Ed correctly? Did he just thank Greed for giving us broken bones, gashes, and possibly some major bruising? What? He asked. You gave me enough time to cool off and start to think properly. He growled, glaring at the man. Thank goodness that my mechanic makes well-designed automail, otherwise this would work. He said, clapping his hands, and grabbed onto Greed's arm, sending blue lighting up his arm and making him let go of Ed. What did he just do? Come on, kid, just give up. Why keep fighting a battle you know that you're not going to win? Greed asked as he hurled his fist towards Edward. Quickly, Ed transmuted his automail once again, but this time he only added spike to his knuckles instead of creating a sword. What is your plan, Ed? I whispered, wondering about the alchemy Ed used before. Was it to weaken Greed's shield? As Greed and Ed's fisted slammed into each other, I waited for the outcome, and to my relief I was right. After a couple of seconds of nothing happening, Greed's shield suddenly disappeared, turning his skin back to the way it was before, and Ed actually made him bleed. Well, that was weird, but it made no difference, see? He said, holding up his hand to show us that it was already back to the way it was before. I smirked. It was our luck that this idiot didn't even know that Ed was using his alchemy to break down the compounds in his shield, making it penetrable once more. We finally have the upper hand for once. Greed charged at Ed again, but he dodged and palmed his stomach, as if he were a hyuga, sending blue sparks flying. What was that? Greed growled, getting fed up with the light show Ed was putting up, and clawed at him but missed. Now that I knew what his plan was, I decided to help him out a bit. Ignoring the pain at my side, I got up, charged at Greed, created a sword and covered it in wind chakra. Again, come on, if you're trying to kill me, try something new. Greed laughed as he stood there waiting for my attack to hit him. Oh, it's new, all right. I growled as stabbed him multiple times in the stomach before he could recover. What did you do to my ultimate shield? He gasped as his body tried to heal the stab wounds. I didn't do anything, Ed did. I said. How? It was really simple. Even though you are a homunculus, your body is that of a human, so that means a third of you is made out of carbon. Based on how the atoms are arranged, the durability of carbon varies, making it stronger or weaker. So all I did was tweak your shield a bit with alchemy, making the carbon weaker, thus making it penetrable again. I finished for him, so the playing field is now even. I shouted, punching him in the stomach, but this time, I used the same technique Ed used, and my punch went through his shield and made him cough up a great amount of blood. Oh, and another thing, Ed cried, coming up behind Greed, I notice you can't use your shield when you're healing yourself. And elbow punched him in the back, sending him flying into the wall. It seems that I underestimated you guys. Greed hissed in pain, but you can't keep this up in your condition, can you? He taunted. It was true, unfortunately, we were in no shape for fighting. Well, Ed wasn't. I could probably last another round or so. I say give him 5 more minutes before he'll pass out from exhaustion. He's right, Ed, you're in no shape to continue. Rest, I'll take care of this guy. Just then the door behind flew open, and for some reason it felt that I was in trouble. Sorry to barge in like this. Izumi's voice echoed throughout the room. Yup, I was so dead. Izumi, teacher, we yelled out. You idiots, she shouted, throwing the body she was carrying at us. My ninja reflexes saved me from being crushing into the wall just like Edward was now. Did you think it was funny leaving your chores unfinished? She yelled out to Edward. I asked you a question. No, I'm sorry. It won't happen again, he cried out. I hate to interrupt this teacher and student binding, but I think that's the least on our worries, Izumi. I said, glaring at Greed, who was standing there watching the scene unfold. I'm going to assume that you heard us yelling. Yes, I heard everything. That's good, that meant we didn't have to tell her about his weakness and just get straight into business. Another one. Geez, they just keep coming in. While Greed took this time to complain, Izumi quickly ran at him, touched his face with alchemy, and then did a roundhouse kick at him. His shield cracked and he staggered back. Just who are you? Greed asked, healing his wound. A housewife, she yelled, and I had to sweat drop at her statement. Miyuki, Ed, let's take this creep down. She growled. You read my mind. Ed, are you okay, or do you need me to still heal you? Nah, I'm fine, besides you need to save your chakra to beat this guy. Ed said, going to his teacher's side, and copied her stance. A housewife, a short-fused brat, and a hot-headed girl, haha, what a team. Greed mocked at us. As much as I want to fight you, I really have to get going. You're not going, blah. Izumi threw up some blood, making her unable to fight. Izumi, I cried, running to her side, trying to heal her as best I could, but it's kind of hard when the person's missing some organs. Teacher, are you okay? Ed asked frantically. I'm fine, but that bastard got away. She gasped. No, he didn't. I have a clone following him right now. I had her positioned outside the room this whole time. Handless jutsus are so reliable. I smiled. Wait, you can make clones? Izumi asked. Yes, and other things. Oh, it looks like we have more company. I stopped healing Izumi and helped her up just as two soldiers came into the room, pointing their guns at us. Freeze. Clone's paw. How pathetic was this guy? Once he saw that he was at a disadvantage, he just ran. Coward. Come back here, you coward, and fight like a man. I shouted into the sewers, hoping that he would at least respond. Suddenly I recognized Al's chakra nearby and changed my course of direction, which was never really that good to begin with, and hoped to save him. I slowed down and peeked over the corner to see if Al was alright. What's going on? The blonde girl in Al's armor asked. No one has made it back yet. Yeah, things got a little bit out of hand and now we need to find a way out of here. Greed sighed. Like that's going to happen. Time to make an, what the, suddenly before my eyes I saw the Führer Air King Bradley standing, his swords at the ready, facing Greed. Maybe I should stay hidden a little longer. You're not going anywhere. King Bradley, what are you doing here? Al asked. That's what I would also like to know, old man. Why is the most powerful man in the land here in the sewers out of all places? Greed also asked. Kind Bradley totally ignored his question and started talking about how growing old makes you unable to move the way you used to. What is this man thinking of? So I would like to finish this job as quickly as possible so I can go home to my family. I just heard the ending of his statement as I felt Bradley's chakra flare up. Hee, well, how about you retire? Quickly, King Bradley swung his sword so fast that if I wasn't a swordsman woman I wouldn't have seen it coming. Somehow, the Führer managed to get through his shield and cut off his hand. What the? Greed was cut off as he had to dodge Bradley's incoming attacks. What really surprised me was how fast he was able to move. This man who was turning 60 could move as fast as an Anbu and had no ninja training of any kind. Not to mention his skills with his swords is astounding. He's almost as good as me. Not to brag or anything, but I am pretty good with swords. Something wasn't normal with this guy, but I couldn't tell what it was. Suddenly I heard a crash. I poked my head out farther and saw that the Führer had kicked Greed further down into the sewers. Now I could save Al without Bradley suddenly questioning me when he sees two Miyukis. Al, I called out, running to him, are you okay? Miyuki, you're alright. Where's Ni-san? He's upstairs with your teacher and me. I said, cutting the chains loose. I'm a clone boss sent. I said before he could question me. And you snake girl, I suggest you get out of here unless you want to be killed. I said, grabbing her, and tried to pry her out of Al with no avail. Damn, she was strong. Hell no. I'm not leaving until Greed comes back and then he'll kill you. She screamed, but her voice held some uncertainty to it. Damn it. Listen to me. King Bradley's not going to show any mercy to you. Get out while you can. I growled at her, pulling even harder. No. Fine, I hissed. I'll get her out of our body while I try to distract the Führer. We don't need innocent lives getting killed. Oh, and tell the officers that you escaped yourself. I said, running towards the sound of the two men fighting. Okay Miyuki, stay safe. Al said while trying to pry the girl out of him. Once I got closer to the fight, I jumped onto the roof of the sewers and hid my chakra presence from the men fighting below. I saw Greed claw at the Führer's face and even managed to nick off his eye patch, but he couldn't do any more as Bradley had his swords inside of Greed's neck, making him paralyzed. I can see why you think you have an advantage over me since I don't possess any of your ultimate shield or ultimate spear, Bradley said. But I'll tell you something. I'll tell you why I have been able to survive the bullets, the cannons, and the war all this time. He looked up at Greed and opened his left eye, and to the surprise of both of us, he had the same Ouroboros tattoo Greed had on his hand. What the hell? Did that mean the Führer was a homunculus too? What the hell is going on? I may not have the protection of your ultimate shield, but I can clearly see your weakness with my ultimate eye. He growled, slicing deeper into Greed's neck. Ultimate eye? This sounded too much like the Sharingan in Byakugan. Did this mean he could see through walls, see their weakness, predict his opponent's movements, and even copy them? Does he know that I'm here? Now before I kill you, I'm going to have get rid of a nosy rat above us. Shit, I was dead, I have to get out of here. Before